We are live, but we just approached infinity. We didn't go beyond
infinity and beyond.
Yeah, we got near it.
I wanted to hear that.
Kind of stayed in and around its sphere of gravitational pull, and then we just said, nah.
That's what happens when I'm
come back and do a radio show.
Out of the studio for 2 days. You
forgot how to do it.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Must be hell on your love life. You lose practice, you forget how to do it.
It's been Wednesday.
Welcome to Wire to Wire here on the Fan Upstate. My name is Diesel. His name is Cole Bryson. Together, this is Wire to Wire, the hottest new show, the most electrifying new show here on the radio in the upstate of South Carolina. What are we going to talk about today?
Nothing. There's nothing.
Nothing really going on.
We probably need to get a newspaper.
Period. So we can find out what happened 2 days ago.
Yeah.
No, man. The NFL draft was last night. A lot of teams got better. Some teams made some head-scratching decisions in the first round. We're going to talk about all of it, our instant reactions here to the first round of the draft in this first segment of the show. We want your instant reactions as well. And, of course, the big question we want to ask you, we want all your opinions. All of you who watch this, especially if you're a fan of the Dirty Birds, what was your reaction to taking Michael Penix Jr., number 8 for the Atlanta Falcons, when they just gave Kirk Cousins the bag? Why would you do that? I mean, they might be the most inept team in the NFL when it comes to drafting in the first round. Last year, they drafted Bijan Robinson, number 8. I mean, he's a fine running back in the NFL, but you didn't have to reach that far to go get a Bijan Robinson. It was a silly move.
That was the head scratcher. And we'll get into it more in the next segment.
It's never good when you see video of the GM and the owner having a heart-to-heart, head-to-head conversation. Why did you do that immediately after the decision?
Sure.
That was a weird one. That was a really odd one. So, big reactions. Who is your team? Who did they draft? How did you feel about it? We want to hear from you at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You can also call us on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. That's 844-326-3663. I got my cheat sheet over here. Those of you watching on the stream, I always look over there. One of these days, I'm going to commit this to memory. Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone line.
You got it. That's it.
I'll get it.
That's it.
I know I'm going to still have to keep reading it. 326-3663. React to your team's draft move. Give us a call and tell us how you feel about it. But Cole, we have never seen this many offensive players come off the board in a row in NFL draft history. Not to just start the draft, but in the entire draft. I mean, you expect to see this kind of thing in the first round when there's a run on quarterbacks and receivers, but you don't really see it in the late rounds when everything sort of gets jumbled up. But we saw 14 picks in a row to start this draft. All of them were on the offensive side of the ball.
Wow.
That blows my mind. Nobody is valuing defense enough to take a defensive player until pick 15 in the draft this year.
Well, what's that tell you? What's that tell you? The NFL now, Diesel, has completely, I don't want to say abandoned defense because defense still obviously matters, but man, they have really said to the league, our immediate needs, what we feel is best to get over the hump are offensive weapons.
We'd rather outscore guys, teams than beat them with defense.
Yeah, but you know what I think back to? Like, what's interesting is, you said it, the most offensive picks ever, but Kansas City, the reason they won the Super Bowl last year, as good as Patrick Mahomes was defense. Their defense was incredible. I mean,
I guess it's a value proposition at this point. I mean, you can still get value from the defensive side of the ball late in the first round and beyond, right?
And maybe that's a good thing.
Part of that is because I think it was something Anish Shroff told us yesterday, play-by-play voice of the Carolina Panthers. He talked about the overvaluing of the wide receiver position in the NFL. I mean, you got a lot of teams who are reaching and getting wide receivers early, which increases the value, maybe puts it into a bit of a bubble, like the housing bubble from 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But what that's going to do is it's going to push really good players at other positions down the draft board, which means you can get them late in the first round, which means you can get them in the second round. I'm talking elite level guys, difference makers almost immediately. you can get those guys later on in the draft.
You know, I guess the good thing about that, what we're talking about with the offense being heavy in the front, Diesel, is it allows teams like the hometown Carolina Panthers, right, who don't have as many picks in the front end but do on the back end. I guess if you want to look at it from the positive standpoint, it allows those teams to say, hey, we have a chance to get some quality defensive guys. So last night, the first defensive guy was taken – I'm looking down the list right now. Offensive line, defensive line,
edge
15.
Rusher. Yeah, edge rusher, Letu.
Yes.
The Indianapolis Colts.
Yes, pick 15 was the first defensive player last night. And I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you a ton about Letu.
And then it went defense.
Sure.
Defensive tackle from Texas, Byron Murphy, went to the Seahawks at 16. Dallas Turner, edge rusher, went to the Minnesota Vikings at 17.
I love that, Diesel. I love Dallas Turner to Minnesota.
You could see, though, how many teams are valuing edge rusher at this point. I'm looking down this list, man. I'm seeing edge rusher at 15. We talked about that with A2. Edge rusher at 17, Dallas Turner to the Vikings.
Yeah.
Edge rusher at 19, Jared Verse to the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Edge rusher, Chop Robinson to the Miami Dolphins at 21. So you had 4 edge guys right there in a very tight window, all come off the board, all between picks 15 and 21. 6 picks, 4 of them edge rushers.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
But it shows you that when we do start to turn defense, you know, it's crazy how the draft turns. Like, it's offense, but all of a sudden it shows you that once we do start picking defensive players, what are the needs? The needs are not guys who can stiff up the interior, but guys who can get after the quarterback. And that's what you saw.
It also shows you what teams who are not good, because you're picking in the top half of the first round.
Yeah.
Teams who are not good almost exclusively value getting there via offense. None of them think they're going to get where they need to be via defense. And then you look at the back half of this draft, the better half of the NFL, right?
Yeah.
What are those teams doing? They're getting better on defense because most of them have their offense
they have the guys
figured out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Spur, I'm going to get to that Falcons comment in the next segment because we're going to sit down and park on that Falcons pick for a little while. But one texter, Diesel, says, yeah, I'm curious what the Falcons have up their sleeve. Tolo Cornchip. Another texter says, Brandon Burnett, how about that pick from the Cowboys? Oh, and the pick from the Eagles. LOL, fly, Eagles, fly. Can't read the last text that we got on the air. Texter, you know better. We can't read that. I thought, though, Diesel, overall, as you and I were at Dave & Buster's, and real quick, shout out to everyone who came by. It was a great turnout. I thought the first draft was very entertaining, other than it taking forever.
Good Lord.
Do you know I left Dave & Buster's at pick 15? And I live in Spartanburg, northern Spartanburg County. I got home at pick 20, 21. I'm not kidding.
They were all taking every minute that they could get. You know, we asked the question, like, why did the Bears wait 10 minutes once they got on the clock?
I hate that.
To make that pick? Why do they do that? They know who they're going to pick. I mean,
they've had all freaking off
season. It's possible that maybe they want to sit there and field some options, you know, let the phones ring if somebody's going to call them and just throw something insane at them. That, to me, that's 50% of the reason. The other 50% is that is 10 minutes of airtime and advertising that you cannot buy.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, think of the value. Think of the viewership in that time right there with
everybody,
every
single person,
to find out what's going to happen. And Cole, I looked up the ratings of the NFL draft last year because obviously last night's ratings are not out yet.
Sure.
Let me see if I can scroll here and find it.
Probably the 24 more hours or so before this year's around.
It'll come back around. The 2023 draft had 11.3 million viewers on day one across 3 different channels. ESPN, whoever else was carrying the draft last year.
Okay.
Almost 11.5 million viewers. So you got 11.5 million people watching the TV, hearing Bears, 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 Bears for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You can't buy that kind of exposure.
No, you can't. And I get it. It sucks. but I get it, right? Like, I can't stand to watch 10 minutes go off the clock and watch the NFL guys talk about it.
What if somebody called them with a desperate move and really wanted to get up to number 1 and said, hey, we'll trade you 3 and we'll give you our star tight end?
Are you allowed to make those calls during the offseason, though, or no?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Maybe they have to wait until they're on the clock.
They might.
To make those moves.
Would that be tampering? Would that be considered tampering?
I don't know. Somebody who knows more of the trade rules in the NFL, let us know.
We'll have to ask.
Could you call the morning of? I mean, they talk about trades all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
they do.
They talk about it, but they also, day of the draft, there was one that I saw about the Minnesota Vikings moving up to 8. They were supposedly going to trade with the Falcons to the 8th pick. That was a rumored pick up until the point that the draft started, right? It was a projected trade. So maybe you can't make trades until the clock starts.
You might not.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Or were you excited about your boy, Caleb Williams, number 1 overall?
Yeah, I mean, look, I knew it was going to happen.
Sure.
I mean, I can have my protests. I can have my issues and say why I wouldn't do it myself. But I still, have a fairly good idea that the Bears were going to draft Caleb Williams.
You know what I love?
And they did.
I hate to say this being a Cowboys fan, but I love Dan Quinn because he was our defensive coordinator. Dan Quinn, now the coach of the Commanders. I absolutely love Jaden Daniels at 2. I think
a great pick.
I think that's the best pick of the first round, man. I really do. Yeah. I mean, Washington, when's the last time they've had a competent quarterback? RG3?
Yeah, but they didn't have him for long.
No, a couple years.
Yeah.
Rookie year was his best year. I love that. I love Jaden Daniels. I hate it because my team will have to see him twice a year. But, man, I think that's going to work. I don't know how I feel about New England and Drake May. I really don't.
He's going to be in a tough spot. When you look around that division and who he's got in his division, they're going to be in a tough spot. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show, Cole. Do you remember off the top of your head what time we have that set up?
I don't.
We're going to talk about which
quarterback.
Here it is, 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. Which quarterbacks will take the longest time to find success in their careers. And, I look at Drake May as a possibility for that. And then truthfully, you got to look at Michael Penix Jr. because, he may not play for 4 years.
Sure.
And by the time that comes around, the dude's going to be nearly 30.
I'll tell you what I don't like. Yesterday and previously this week, Diesel, I told you several times that Marvin Harrison Jr. was my favorite player on the board. I don't love him in Arizona, man. I just
feel bad for him.
You do. I don't want to say I hope his career doesn't die there, but my goodness, do you have faith in Kyler Murray?
No.
I mean, that's the thing.
I mean, the only thing you can think of is if Kyler has another season or two like this, they're still going to be in this position, and maybe they go quarterback. I mean, maybe they go Quinn Ewers next year if they just can't get it done out there. I mean, at what point do you have to pull the ripcord and get rid of him?
I'll tell you what. What's an interesting comparison talking about Kyler Murray. Will the Panthers be as loyal to Bryce Young as Arizona's been to Kyler Murray? Because I think they've been loyal a little bit too long.
At least Bryce Young comes at things with a good attitude.
Yeah. Kyler's kind of a prick.
Bryce came across as a little bit sad boy last year, but at the same time, we could all understand why Bryce was a little bit sad boy last year. We can't understand why why Kyler Murray won't study the playbook.
Yeah.
Why he's too busy playing PlayStation. Why he has apparently seemingly no desire to go out there and be a good teammate. I mean, we can't really fathom that. Again, what we can't fathom though, Cole, is Falcons going quarterback at 8. That one doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What does make a little bit of sense in a business reason, from a business standpoint, are the Carolina Panthers moving up from 33 to 32. That was a pick that came via the Bills, via the Chiefs. They move up from 33 to 32. The player that they wanted was going to be there. I mean, I'm sure there was not a ton of risk that the Buffalo Bills were going to go wide receiver because they know if they really like Xavier Legette also, guess what? There's still A.D. Mitchell. There's still Ladd McConkey on the board after that. So if Legette was the guy that they liked and they ultimately hand him to the Carolina Panthers, they're going to be fine on the back end. What it does do for Carolina, Cole, and this is where I'm saying it's a good business decision. This allows the Carolina Panthers to save a little bit of money on Xavier Legette's salary, year 3 and year 4 of his rookie deal. And it allows them to have the 5th-year option on him down the road.
Yeah.
So they could be set at that position from now for 5 years. So it was a smart decision from the Carolina Panthers. I mean, really the only difference for them is they pick up the possibility of the 5th-year option on Legette. They move down from 141 to 200. Not really a huge difference, picking 59 spots apart from one another, in the 5th round versus the 6th round. Though, Cole, I did look at who some of the all-time best 5th and 6th round guys were. And I'm going to tell you, you can still find really good players in the 6th round. So here, I'm going to give you 3, okay? 3 from each. 3 of the all-time best 5th rounders in the NFL draft: Herschel Walker, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill.
Pretty good.
All 3 of those guys came out of the 5th round, and you're thinking, oh, that's what they could potentially have access to if they had stayed there at 141.
So I like Legette to Carolina. I talked to someone this morning who was told that Buffalo was intent on being the first pick today. So for Carolina, it kind of worked out well. They didn't have to worry about waiting another day to get their guy. I think for the Panthers, it worked out great because they're able to go ahead and get their pick over with. Now, Buffalo, they wanted to reset their draft board and have a little bit of control over day 2, round 2, if you will, by being the first pick, because they have a pick a little bit later on as well. But Xavier Legette, when I was sitting there watching Diesel, we were seeing Nate Wiggins go to Baltimore, and then all of a sudden Ricky Pearsall from Florida goes to San Fran, and then all of a sudden you see Carolina pop up, and I'm like, wait, what? So
big jump there. Shout out, big jump for Nate Wiggins. A lot of us we're looking at him as an early 2nd round guy.
Oh,
so shout out to him for getting up into the 1st round.
And by the way, real quick note on that, he couldn't have landed in a better spot. I mean, that is absolutely incredible for Nate Wiggins. But you know what? I've had a lot of conversation this morning. I've had a lot of friends reach out. I just got off the phone with somebody, a big Panthers fan of mine, friend of mine who's a Panthers fan. And he was asking the same thing, Diesel. What do you think about Xavier Legette? And for the Panthers, you've got to hope that Bryce Young improves, regardless of who is at receiver. The only way Xavier Legette's going to make an impact is if your quarterback gets better. That's just a fact, right? As good as Xavier Legette could be, he's got to have someone consistently that can get him the football. Xavier's going to do his part, I believe. But I like it. I think that Carolina, we heard Dave Canales say it, that if Legette was there, he wanted to get him, and they stuck to him. I am surprised that Carolina did not I don't want to say surprise, Diesel, but their loyalty to Legette this whole process has been something that surprised me.
Yeah, I love the audio of Dave Canales when he was asked, hey, did you tell Xavier Legette that if he's there at 33, you're going to take him? It's like, yeah, we told him that. But we told like 50 guys that.
Sure.
So you're wondering like, is he really that in on Xavier Legette? Shout out to him for maybe playing a little smoke and mirrors game there with that little cat and mouse. I'm not entirely sure, but I did want to go back to this here, Cole. All-time 5th rounders: Herschel Walker, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill. All-time best 6th rounders: Tom Brady, Terrell Davis, Antonio Brown.
Wow,
so the point is, you can still find, if you're lucky, you can still find really, really good players in the 5th and 6th round. And one final note from me before we go off the break, Cole. Lincoln Riley now has 3 number 1 quarterback selections in his career: Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams. The dude has 3 number 1 quarterbacks.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. IT Gamecock on the stream. Glad to have you on. IT Gamecock says, or ask rather, is Bo Nix a good fit at Denver? Well, it's interesting. Denver just got Zach Wilson earlier this week, right? So from Sean Payton's perspective, I don't know if Sean Payton believes that Bo Nix is going to be the guy immediately, or if he's going to try to run out Zach Wilson. I don't know where they go there. I think you have to give him a good, healthy competition during the spring and the summer, Diesel, and through training camp. But we'll get back to that. That's an interesting move. I don't know. You have Bo Nix, who you would think, right, 1st-round pick, better than Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson was a 1st-rounder. Do you just cast Zach Wilson off that quick? That's a tough
Yeah,
decision.
Zach Wilson, though, he's never taken off in the NFL. And you and I both know that was a stopgap. I mean, if they chose to go another way, Zach Wilson was getting at best a year.
Yeah.
At best.
It's interesting. I'll be interested to see. I do like Sean Payton. I still somewhat believe in him. I don't know if I believe in him in Denver. One texter says, from what I saw last year, Legette's the second best wide receiver on the roster before he even steps on the field. You can continue to get your thoughts in on the program, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Also, the stream. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can get your thoughts in there as well. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and coming up next, we will talk and park on Atlanta. We had a great guest interview yesterday, Diesel, with home team Brandon Leak. What in the world were the Falcons thinking? Up next. surely when you sign a quarterback to a 4-year deal worth $180 million, you're not going to draft a quarterback at, I don't know, what pick? 8. Well, guess what, Diesel? That is exactly what the Atlanta Falcons did yesterday with Michael Penix Jr.
The hell are you thinking, Falcons?
Listen, I like Penix. I really do. But what do you, I mean, what?
If
4-year deal.
If you know you're going to draft Michael Penix, you sign Zach Wilson to like a 2-year deal. And then if you want to move on, if you want to jump him with your rookie quarterback, you don't have to pay him for that long.
I was talking to a buddy of mine on the way here today, Diesel, about this. And he's a Panthers fan. And he called me. We were talking about last night's draft. And we were talking about Penix in Atlanta. And I told him, I saw the same video that you saw about Arthur Blank and some conversations afterwards. I said that if you think about this, and they're having let's say that everybody's in a meeting 2 weeks ago. The owner, general manager, coaches, scouts, everybody. Diesel, if everybody's in a meeting, do you think the conversation was had that now that we've signed Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal, we're going to go draft Penix? I could be dead wrong. I just don't believe that happened.
No one raised their hand. No one in the back. They're like, hey, guys, did you already forget that you did this? It's like the staff has the memory of a goldfish.
It's unbelievable.
They forgot what they just did. They forgot that they guaranteed Kirk Cousins $90 million. $90 million of that 180 fully guaranteed.
Why even bring Cousins in? And again, we'll have audio. I have audio right here, actually, of the post-draft press conference from ownership and general managers from the Falcons, Diesel. And what they say makes sense. However, you're stuck.
Yeah.
I mean, you are absolutely stuck like Chuck. What are you going to do? You got this guy for 4 years. You going to bench a guy that makes $180 million if Penix is better?
And if you really love Michael Penix, if you get him in camp and you really love him, who's going to take that contract off your hands? I mean,
nobody.
Kirk Cousins is like 60. Who's going to trade for him?
Nobody.
Jeez.
Texter says, after watching NFL football for 40-plus years, all I have to say after last night is WTF Atlanta Falcons. Penix will be 26 before they can cut Cousins, which is true, and 29 when his 5th-year option is up. Worst pick at that spot ever. Well, surely, Diesel, the ownership said something to make sense of it, right? Here we go.
All right, guys. Very, very excited about today, about the outcome of today, being able to add Michael Penix Jr. When you can add a high-caliber player like that with his intangibles, those tools, he's a winner. Very, very excited. You don't pass up that opportunity. And Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. We're very excited about Kirk, very excited about this team. And Michael Penix we're talking about the future. The draft is, you look at the future and you look at big picture, but we are very excited about that quarterback room. And again, Kirk is our quarterback, but adding Michael Penix is thinking about the future.
You know, Diesel, if Kirk Cousins had 1 year left on his deal, this would be fantastic.
Yeah.
This would be the best pick ever.
I mean, I don't know who that was in that audio. I'm guessing it was Terry Fontenot.
Yes, it was.
The GM. He said, quote, if you believe in a quarterback, you have to take him. And if he sits for 4 or 5 years, that's a great problem to have because we're doing so well at that position. So it's as simple as if you see a guy you believe in at that position, you have to take him. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
That's like having 10 kickers on your fantasy team. You can't start them all.
It's terrible.
You can't play them all. And the worst part is, Cole, they didn't run any of this by Kirk Cousins in advance. None of it. This comes from Kirk's agent. He was both shocked and disappointed. Quote, Kirk got a call from the Falcons when they were on the clock. This was the first we heard of it. It never came up in any conversations. Good Lord.
There's no way.
Nobody
There's
bothered
no
to call
way.
him and say, hey, what do you think about this,
Diesel?
Kurt? He's probably like, I don't give a rip, man. I'm making $90 million guaranteed.
I'd give anything in the world to hear that audio. Like, can you imagine being in the draft in the war room and you're about to pick? Oh, crap. Let me pick up the phone. Somebody call Kurt. Hey, Kurt, by the way, we're drafting Michael Penix Jr. Do what?
That's like remembering you're hosting a party tonight and you got to say,
Yeah.
oh, my God, somebody call Pizza Hut real quick.
Yeah. Madcraft says, this is terrible, but I'm going to read it. I didn't realize Atlanta was in Alabama because they just screwed Cousins. Oh, my word.
This is great, Cole. Listen to this. And I love it because it drops our name in it.
Yeah.
According to ESPN, this is a quote that came from this story. According to ESPN, the Falcons, quote, had conviction on Penix from wire to wire and sent 8 coaches. You like that?
Are they promoting us?
I guess. I hope so. I hope they're big fans of the show down there in Atlanta. Maybe they're not after this segment. And they sent 8 coaches and front office executives to Seattle for a meeting with him following his pro day. The contingent included GM Fontenot, assistant GM Kyle Smith, head coach Raheem Morris, offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, and quarterbacks coach TJ Yates. They sent the farm to Seattle to this dude's pro day right after they had just given Kirk Cousins 4 years, 180, 90 mil fully guaranteed.
You know what we got to do? We've got to get home team Brendan Leak on next week.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's thinking. He's been covering Atlanta Falcons more than
he seemed
anybody.
like such a positive guy yesterday. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's going to be smiling through the segment next time.
He was fantastic,
Yeah,
by
he
the way.
was.
If you missed it, you can go back on the rewind feature on the Odyssey app. But Diesel, I want to know what Falcons insiders are thinking because there's no way you can convince me that this makes any sense.
Trey says, my boss is a Falcons fan. I heard him say, Arthur shooting blanks this morning.
It's probably true.
Oh, my God.
One texter, Diesel, says, I'm hearing now that the Falcons are all in on selecting Spencer Rattler with the 39th pick. That'd be great.
Man, they're going to run one hell of a razzle-dazzle out there. I'm telling you.
Can you play Penix and Kirk Cousins at the same time?
Has there ever been a successful 2-quarterback system in the NFL?
Coach told me one time, Diesel, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0. And you know what? I don't know that that's far from it when you look at these
you're
two.
the Atlanta Falcons and you have 2 quarterbacks, you need one more. I mean,
You know, it's crazy. I get that he's there, but
is there some knowledge of Kirk Cousins' injury that the rest of us don't know about, and the coaches are just banking on the idea that Kirk's going to go down?
well, he's coming off of an Achilles, and that's the only thing that I can think.
Yeah, but I mean,
Maybe-
like, looking forward.
Maybe they're praying that Kirk Cousins goes down, that they're going to pay his, retirement and injury benefits. But there's not a Falcons fan in the world that can convince me this makes sense. There's not anybody that can convince me that, what's even crazier, Diesel? The Falcons, they picked 8. They could have got Rome Odunze, wide receiver Washington.
Mm-hmm.
They could have got,
What better way to say, Kirk, we support you by getting you a receiver, an elite rookie in year 1.
Brock Bowers. No.
Yeah, no, don't need that guy.
I mean, that is unbelievable. You could have beefed up the offensive line. As Diesel said earlier, 2 defensive linemen went right after that. Dallas Turner, Alabama, Jared Verse from Florida State. I'm speechless. I have no idea. What do you think that there was somebody in the top 7, Diesel, that they wanted and that player got off of their board, so they said, screw it, we're going to take. But you know what? I don't know if that's true or not because you just said they've been on Penix the whole time.
I'm trying to think who this could be. J.C. Latham from Alabama, offensive tackle. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver from LSU.
There was still
Joe
plenty
O'Teeth
left.
from Notre Dame. I mean, did they panic and say the wrong name?
But you know what? My question and your answer to me, the answer is no because of what you just said. They've been high on him the whole time. They went to his pro day.
Makes sense as if they wanted to draft him and then trade him after the fact.
You just wasted a
They
first-round
traded
pick.
yeah.
I mean, what are you going to get? I mean, I don't know. Texter says, if I were the Falcons, I would have tried to get someone else to come up and get Penix. This tells me no one else maybe wanted him. No, I don't believe that. I really don't.
That's a huge gamble.
It is.
That's a huge gamble. I mean, what quarterbacks went after him? Okay, J.J. McCarthy went to the Vikings. Unless they thought, ooh, we get Penix, and then we can trade him to Minnesota and get another pick. It doesn't make any sense.
Here's the first pushback we've gotten. One texter says, Diesel, Falcons did the right thing. It will pay off.
Based on what, texter? Based on blind optimism?
Oh, no.
Based on what? I mean, how can you're the literal first person that we've seen even remotely attempt to spin this positively for the Falcons?
There's no way.
Based on what?
You know,
owe Kirk Cousins $90 million regardless. And then you draft a backup quarterback behind him who's 24, who will be
already
26
old.
before you can cut Kirk Cousins, who will be 29 by the time you're coming off of Kirk Cousins' deal. I mean, he's going to be old by the time he would be the presumptive starter as Kirk Cousins exits stage left.
I understand.
Unless they think Kirk's going to retire sometime soon. That's the only way this makes any sense, is if you think Kirk's retirement is
and maybe he does. I don't know.
Why you sign him to 4 years, 180 if you think he's going to retire?
Yeah, you don't. That's a simple answer. You don't. I understand the philosophy. And Madcraft pointed it out on the stream. The GM is on record stating that if the best available is a quarterback, then you have to take him, can't pass. That was the GM's philosophy from the beginning. Well, I understand that philosophy, and it makes sense. It's a good philosophy. But the philosophy of signing an old AARP quarterback a month ago, that's not the best philosophy. So did the GM decide that?
It's a philosophy. It's not a commandment. It's not chiseled into a stone tablet that was carried down from a mountaintop.
Going back to my point, I don't think, Diesel, that there was again, I don't have any inside source. I'm just telling you, I don't see any way, and you know what, that there was communication about this and that everybody in the board meeting, everybody in the room was on the same page and said, hey, let's sign Kirk Cousins and then we're going to draft Penix. There's no way.
You know what this reeks of, though? This reeks of a Dave Tepper situation where all the other staff were like, yeah, we really like this guy. We do. And there's a lot to like about him. But we've already got Kirk Cousins. We should go a different direction. And at the midnight hour, 2 minutes to midnight, somebody swoops in and says, no, I know better. This is what we're going to do.
And Penix has 2 ACL tears too. I like this text.
Are they treating quarterbacks with ACLs like trading cards? You got to collect them all?
Maybe so. Get them in the same room. One texter says, guys, the Atlanta pick is going to go down as one of the worst in the history of the draft. The owner and GM are just trying to act and look smarter than everyone else. I've come up with a new term for this. It's ego drafting. Grant and Five Forks.
I like it.
I do too. Good text, Grant.
You're right.
Ego drafting.
Speaking of ego drafting, Cole, we're going to get into this in the next segment of the show. The ego on Carolina Panthers, Dave Tepper, just put him like in a bad spot again.
Surely not.
After we had just heard that David Tepper was going to take a step back and was going to let his staff do their thing. He couldn't resist. He couldn't resist getting involved where he had absolutely no business getting involved. Didn't necessarily hurt the team. It just made him look more like an a-hole than he already did. I love this story. We're going to laugh our way through it.
Yes.
We're going to talk about it next here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, 97.7 in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. And of course, you can always go back, listen to segments again on the free Odyssey app on the podcasts. He is Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. Together we are Wire to Wire here on the Fan Upstate. Look, we all know that David Tepper is a flaming bag of poo on a front porch. Somebody rang the doorbell, lit it on fire, and ran off. And all Carolina Panthers fans can do is step on it, stomp on it, get that stinky stuff all over our shoes. But ultimately, there's nothing we can do about it because he owns the team. And you can't force a billionaire to own a team unless he does something super egregious. And guess what?
But he's never done that.
He's never done that.
No.
He's done some bad things. I mean, he's been a jerk in press conferences. That's nothing new. He's owners. Truthfully, you probably don't get to be a billionaire if you're a super nice guy. I mean, not everybody's Taylor Swift, who is breathtaking and fun and delightful.
Mm-hmm.
But most billionaires, believe it or not, got where they are because they're jerks and they're ruthless. Dave Tepper has shown that many, many times in press conferences. Dave Tepper has gotten so frustrated that he threw a drink on a fan on the road last year. He didn't even do this in Charlotte. He did it on the road. But nothing happened. He was fined, what, $300K? Which is the equivalent of like $16 to that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a restaurant, Cole, in Charlotte called Dilworth Neighborhood Bar and Grill.
Shout out them.
Shout out to Dilworth. God, we all need to make Can we make a pilgrimage to this place?
I'm going.
They are famous right now for constantly changing their sign out front to troll the Panthers and Dave Tepper. They do it all the time. They are essentially Charlotte's man with a sign. They nail him constantly. And they put up a sign right outside of the restaurant. And I guess it's right along Dave Tepper's path to drive to the stadium.
Or he has Twitter.
But Dave Tepper and some, enforcer, some goon that he had with him stopped at the Dilworth Neighborhood Bar and Grill after he found out that they had this sign, which reads, "Please let the coach and GM pick this year." Yes.
Well done.
You and I both know, Cole, that last year, it's very well documented that a lot of the staff wanted CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
But Dave Tepper, he had to have Bryce Young because he's such a brilliant football mind, right?
Yes.
He's so smart. He has his wife out there scouting the defensive line practice, but he's so smart. We got this guy not sure, and he's going to fix everything. He decided that Bryce Young was going to be the guy, and there was going to be no changing his mind on this. At least that's my belief. So Dilworth Neighborhood Bar and Grill puts up this sign that says, "Please let the coach and GM pick this year." It's funny. That's all it needed to be.
Yeah.
Was a funny on the side of the road. But Dave Tepper got so in his feels about this, Cole. And this is after we had heard from Sheena Quick, who was a fantastic Panthers reporter, that she had asked Dave Tepper, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he said, "No, I'm going to take my hands off the wheel this year. I'm going to take a step back," which was all what we all wanted, right? Dave Tepper walks into the restaurant. There's video of this. There's surveillance video.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it yet, it's all over Twitter. But it's footage of the front door of the restaurant, and you've got the host stand right at the bottom of the frame. And there's a gentleman standing there. Dave Tepper walks in with his sleeves rolled up, acting like he's a big shot. And he starts talking to this guy. And you can barely hear the audio. But he starts like undressing this dude, right? Then he reaches over and takes the hat off of presumably the employee or the owner's head.
Sure.
Puts it on the table, basically saying, "You are not going to speak to me with a hat on your head."
Yeah, he
takes the hat off, puts it on the table, and says, "Who made that sign?"
Yeah, that's where he would have the owner would have probably went to jail for aggravated assault.
Right?
I would not have been a big fan of that. The fact that, number one, taking the hat off the head is embarrassing.
Yeah.
But the fact that he shows up at the restaurant. You are an owner of an NFL team. Do you not have anything better to do on draft night? The night where you're hoping to change your franchise for the better? Do you not have anything else better to do? Maybe he was hungry. Maybe he wanted some wings. Maybe he wanted the cold beverage, so he stops by and just happened to be the place where the sign was, right?
I love the audio when he's asking, like, who made that sign? And the guy's like, no, I don't know, not me. I didn't make that sign. And the hostess next to him was like, what sign are you talking about?
Yeah. What sign? Sign.
His goon just kind of comes out of the sign out there. You know what sign we're talking about. That sign.
But there's nothing even wrong with a sign, though. Like, the sign is right. Whoever did the sign should be applauded. I don't understand why he got mad. I think David Tepper may have little man syndrome.
Yeah.
I don't know what he has that he has to feel like he has to go address everything. But that is the GM and coaches. Like, yeah, they should be the ones picking David.
Yeah. Not
you. You're a billionaire. Doesn't mean you know football.
This guy, Cole, reminds me of my dog. Okay. We got a 10-month-old dog. And we're in training. We're trying to teach him things. And you can tell, like, when you give him a task, when you tell him to do something, like to leave it or to stay or something like that, you can tell when he's thinking real hard about it. Like, he's fighting every urge in his body to get up and go get the thing that he's not supposed to have. Because his little ears start twitching. They're just doing this. They're just twitching. He's trying so hard to be good. He's trying so hard not to give in to the temptation to chase the thing, but he just can't help himself. He's got to get up. He's got to go get it. That's Dave Tepper.
It is.
He can't not. He can't not.
He's not only embarrassing to the franchise, at this point, he's now embarrassing himself. Like, you have to. Not only when you become a billionaire, I know billionaire mindset is, I guess it's like, hey, I can do whatever I want when I want. I'm a billionaire, whatever. It doesn't matter. I guess that's how billionaires operate. But when you're the face of the franchise, how do you think the NFL players that play for you, how do you think they feel about it? How do you think your coaches feel?
Yeah.
I mean, you're representing your freaking franchise by walking in there.
He has a reflection on them.
David Tepper should have walked in that restaurant, bought everybody's tab and said, you're right. We do need to let our GM pick. That's what he should have done.
That's hilarious. I'm paying for everyone's tab in here.
But instead, he gets mad, takes a guy's hat off, shows his you-know-what. And again, kudos to the guy. He's a better man than I am.
If it's me, I'm trolling him hard enough to get him angry. I want Dave Tepper to swing at me.
What would they do if you took David Tepper's hat off his head? I mean, that's too much, man. You take a guy's hat off his head. I'm not with that.
I mean, the best thing for David Tepper is that this happened on draft day and that there is a lot of things for a lot of other people to talk about. Because I guarantee you remember when he threw the drink, everyone was talking about it for 24 hours after it happened. Everyone was talking about it. No one's talking about this because, well, the draft happened. Everybody's talking about how stupid the Falcons are.
Yeah. Luckily for David Tepper's sake. He better be lucky.
Madcraft says, take my hat off, and I'm taking that mallet they use to hit the drum, and it's going where the sun don't shine.
Good point. I don't disagree. Bad luck for the Panthers. Bad luck for David Tepper himself. But guess what? The bottom line is he doesn't care what we think. The only person that matters to him is himself.
I can't wait to see their next sign at the Dilworth Neighborhood Bar and Grill.
I wish more restaurants would follow suit. I really do.
It's going to be great. The troll job this summer is going to be epic.
All right, coming up next, we look at the 6 quarterbacks. It's funny that 6 went in the first round. It's almost like yesterday on Wire to Wire, we ranked those 6. We talked about those 6. Well, those 6 got drafted last night. We will give our opinion, Diesel's opinion, my opinion on who will succeed the quickest of the 6. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. We don't live in a more where we are patient enough to allow things to transpire. We live in a microwave culture, a microwave world. We want things now, and if we don't get them now, then it's too late. We want things immediately. The NFL, owners, executives, GMs, the exact same way. They want their quarterbacks now, and they don't want to have to let those quarterbacks sit on the back burner and warm up while the starting quarterback teaches them how to be a professional. So the segment that we are now in, I want to see of the 6 quarterbacks that were taken last night in the NFL draft. He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryson. This is Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. Of the 6, who do you think will have success the quickest? Who will be successful the quickest? And then the flip side of the coin is, which will take the longest to have success? 71307 is the way you can text the show. Start your text with the word fan. Phone lines open during this segment as well. Shane Connuck coming up in 20 minutes on Wire to Wire. 844 fan phone. It's the Renewal by Anderson phone line. 844-326-3663. Diesel, we ranked them yesterday. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix. Obviously, Caleb Williams went first. We know that. But I want to look at these 6 quarterbacks and get your opinion. I'll give mine, and I want to hear from the audience. Who will have success the quickest of those 6, in your opinion?
Quickest. That's a tougher question than I think slowest.
Okay.
I do think quickest is the tougher of the 2 questions. But I'm going to say, unfortunately, I do think
it's a tough question.
That is.
It's very tough.
That is, without really going deep. I mean, I would say Caleb Williams just because I understand what they're adding to the roster, like what they already have. They have DJ Moore. They have picks. They can add a lot of good receivers. Who did they take at number 8?
Who's that? The Falcons?
The Bears.
Oh, the Bears took 9.
Rome Odunze.
Yes, Washington receiver.
So they've got, I think they've got a really good core of wide receivers on the Chicago Bears roster. I just wonder how Caleb Williams will handle being the guy from day one, because obviously when you draft a guy number 1, you know that guy is going to start without any question, right?
You would hope.
I just wonder how Caleb Williams is going to be able to stand up to that pressure. Is it J.J. McCarthy with the Vikings? It certainly ain't going to be Michael Penix with the Falcons. I'm going to say this is tough because I've been so down on Caleb Williams. I'm going to say that it's between Jaden Daniels with the Commanders just because he's elite.
Yeah.
They don't have the best wide receiver room. I mean, Kesmir Allen, Brown, Crowder, Davian Davis, Jahan Dotson, Terry.
I love that.
McLaurin.
Terry's not bad.
I don't know who most of these dudes are.
Scary Terry.
Right. Olamide Zacchaeus.
Yeah.
I don't know who these dudes are. So if they can get Jaden some help at receiver for the Commanders, and I'd have to look and see where they ranked for catching the ball last year. Maybe it's just a better roster without any huge names on it. I'm going to say it's between Jaden and Bo.
On who will have success the quickest?
Who will have success the quickest, again, because I have to stick to my guns here and say that I don't think Caleb is going to be fantastic.
Well, Jaden Daniels in Washington, what's interesting about that is he is going to, as you said, Diesel, get the day 1 start, assuming he stays healthy during OTAs and training camp, right, through the remainder of the workouts they're doing now, which you would think he would be ready for August or September, whenever they lace it up to start the season. You're right. Washington doesn't have the best wide receiver room, But you know what I was just thinking about while you were saying that?
They have, according to PFF, 2023, they had the 19th best receiving room in the NFL. But what's interesting about this, Cole, is I just looked up these rankings. The Minnesota Vikings have the 7th best receiving room in the NFL. So I'm going to switch my answer. I'm going to say it's J.J. McCarthy.
Oh, in Minnesota?
Yeah. If he's got the receiving room that PFF grades them as having,
yeah,
Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson, K.J. Osborne, I think they'll be in good shape.
Well, Justin Jefferson will make any quarterback's life easier, right?
Sure will.
So Washington, what's interesting is Washington doesn't have the receivers. They don't have the guys yet, unless Washington and Dan Quinn and go get some guys in the draft here in the next couple of days. They don't have that guy right now that can be the WR1 for Jaden Daniels. Neither does Caleb Williams. Neither does Drake May. Drake May, New England Patriots, I don't really love their receiving core. I don't really love what I've seen out of the Patriots under, the last few years. Now, I know that Gerard Mayo, the new coach, is supposed to turn things around, right? Mm-hmm. He's supposed to be the guy that comes in and gives them a new culture. But the Patriots, you look at their receiving room, K.J. Osborne, Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne. Have I said anybody yet, Diesel, that makes you scared?
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Who?
So
now, the Commanders can really help themselves at 36. They have the 36th pick.
They need to.
So they could go get a star rookie. But then again, they're rookies. You just don't know how they're going to pan out. Doesn't matter how good they were in college. You just don't know.
No, you don't. And that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at these 6, thinking to myself, of the 6, who has the most weapons? Again, we can't say there's one of these quarterbacks, Diesel, that we cannot say is going to have quick success. And that's Michael Penix Jr.
Sure, yeah.
Because he's not going to play, right? Unless Kurt tears another Achilles.
Right.
So he's off the list. So you look at J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams. Do you have the Bears? I'm going to pull up the Bears wide receiver room.
I'm scrolling down the list, and they
Keenan
have
Allen,
13th best.
Okay, they did draft Rome Odunze.
Yep.
And they have Keenan Allen, who's not a bad receiver, right? DJ Moore, not a bad receiver.
Chase Claypool.
So he has some weapons. Running back DeAndre Swift. Caleb Williams is going to have some weapons.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams is going to have to, in my opinion, create consistency, something that hasn't been done in Chicago in a long time. So when I answer this question, and I like your answer with J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota because, like I said, Justin Jefferson's fantastic. One of the best, if not the best in the league, right? I don't see any receivers in Denver that blow me away. There's nothing that Sean Payton has shown in the last 8 years that makes him competitive. I hate to say it, but he hasn't been. I don't hate the J.J. McCarthy Vikings, but I'm going to go with, of the 6 quarterbacks, who I think will have the quickest success. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's going to be, in my opinion, Caleb Williams in Chicago. Bears and success, Diesel, those 2 words haven't gone hand in hand.
Thanks to the Carolina Panthers' complete ineptitude and giving up the number 1 overall pick and DJ Moore. I mean, Caleb Williams is set up fairly well to be successful. Now it's on him.
It is.
Now we get to see.
And Texter had a good point. He said, I'm not a Bears fan, but Caleb Williams will be throwing to DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze. That's gross, says the Texter. Yeah. You're right. It's a good receiving core. It's not an elite receiving core. I don't know that Keenan Allen's in his prime anymore, but it's a good receiving core. It's a very good receiving core.
I just want to know if the condo that Caleb Williams rents is pet friendly. Can he bring his dog and cuddle with him and watch Netflix if games don't go well?
Well, here's the deal. While they do have some decent receivers, Chicago, over the past, decade and a half, they have shown not only are they incompetent on the offensive side of the ball, they're also just terrible defensively. Like, as good as Caleb Williams may be, what do we know about quarterbacks, Diesel? We know that quarterbacks have to have a offensive line. We know that they have to have a pretty good defense. We know that they need a decent running game. So do the Bears have a good enough running game, a good enough offensive line, and a good enough defense yet? I don't think so. But of the 6, man, I just don't know. Like, I don't see Bo Nix having a ton of success early in Denver.
That's going to take some time.
I mean, what does Denver have? Denver, it's just like
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton. Their running back is Javonte Williams, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Mims Jr., Tim Patrick.
PFF ranks Chicago's defense as the 31st best defense in the NFL.
And that's not good. That's not good at all.
No.
That's terrible.
No, it's not.
So
you're telling me Caleb Williams is going to essentially be asked to go out there and score
a lot.
Minimum 28 points a game to win a lot of games for the Chicago Bears. That's tough for any rookie. That's tough for any quarterback in the league, anywhere.
The reality of it is, Diesel, none of these 6 quarterbacks went to a team that's good. Like let's just call it like it is. That's the way the draft's set up, because they're not good, so they get the first picks. We talked about it yesterday. Chicago, can't tell you the last time they made the playoffs. Commanders, Robert Griffin, last time they were any good. Patriots, we all know when the last time they were any good. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick didn't do anything after Tom Brady left. Atlanta, we don't know what they're going to do. Michael Penix sure ain't going to be on the field. The Vikings, when's the last time Vikings were actually like a threat? The Broncos, same way.
It was
Peyton.
It was back in Kirk's heyday, man.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, these teams.
Like that.
Yeah.
You like that.
While these teams have their quarterback now, I just look at them and think, I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's the struggle with setting the draft up the way that they do, though, Cole.
It is. It is.
So who do you see having the toughest time finding success? I mean, the obvious answer, like you said, is Michael Penix, because the way these contracts are set up, he's probably not going to see the field with significant time for at least 2 years. And hey, that's what we want to see, right? We want to see. You and I long for the days when Kirk Cousins is given his time, at least a year, to teach Michael Penix how to be a pro, how to be a quarterback in this league. But that's not the way the league is set up these days. We can complain about it all we want to, but that's just not the way that it's done.
That's tough. That's tough. The slowest success, and we can't use Michael Penix as an answer because you said it, obviously, that's the obvious answer. He's not going to play for a while. So of McCarthy, Nix, May, Daniels, and Williams, who will take the longest, the slowest? I'll be honest, Diesel, I would probably go Bo Nix. I'd probably go Bo Nix. I don't love, for whatever reason, I don't love what I've seen from Sean Payton. Sean Payton's shown me nothing as of late that he's still one of the top elite coaches in the game. The Broncos, again, I'm not blown away with their roster. He has some work to do, and maybe they can improve, on day 2, day 3 of the draft. But there's nothing that screams, like when you look at that roster, the starters, Diesel, even defense, man. I mean, Patrick Surtain, the second, he's good. Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper. You don't have guys that just stick out.
Problem is they're in a division with the Kansas City Chiefs.
That would be a little small, tiny, little itty bitty problem, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Raiders are there. The Chargers are there. This division is a race to second, honestly.
So Bo's my answer.
Bo is your answer. I'm going to say Drake May.
Okay.
Because they're in a division in the AFC East that's got Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, and Aaron Rodgers. Now, if Aaron Rodgers can stay on the field for more than 4 snaps this year, he's automatically better than Drake May. Josh Allen, better than Drake May. Tua, better than Drake May.
Sure.
So he's now the 4th best quarterback in this division, just not even just because he's a rookie, just because those guys are just better, right?
They are.
So, I mean, he's going to have a hard time winning games in that division. He's going to have a real hard time winning games. And they're breaking in a new head coach. A lot of changes going on there in New England. So to not copy you, to not go Bo Nix.
Yeah.
I think Drake's looking up at 3 guys ahead of him, better quarterbacks in that division.
Dre's only hope is let me back up. I don't want to say it that way because that sounds depressing.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Dre, I don't want to say only hope. Drake May's biggest need is for Gerard Mayo to be a home run hire. I mean, and again, the problem is Gerard Mayo's not the Sean McVay's, the offensive-minded young. He may turn into that, but Gerard Mayo's a defensive guy. I don't know. Gerard Mayo, to me, he's got to prove himself in New England. New England's a place where you have to go in and prove yourself. And I'll tell you what, I don't love, Diesel. I don't love a first-year head coach with a first-year quarterback.
It's tough.
When does that ever work in the NFL?
The only time that could work is if it was the Chargers and they just drafted J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
That's the only time that works. And that's a 1 in a million shot.
It's tough,
to have
man.
a coach quarterback combo coming out of college going directly to a team.
Yeah. And again, like, these are 6 good quarterbacks. But the way the draft's set up, it doesn't allow these guys to be successful immediately. I understand that it gives parity and it allows teams to get better and allows teams who are at the bottom to get the top draft picks. But you don't look at the Broncos, Vikings, Falcons, Patriots, Commanders, and Bears and think, oh, man, those are playoff teams next year.
You got a chance to say, oh, my. The Patriots, the Chargers, oh, my, the Bears, oh, my.
Yeah.
You missed that opportunity.
I struck out on that one. Listen, the reality of it is those aren't playoff teams, right? Like the Vikings, maybe. The Bears, I don't see it. The Commanders, they're not winning the Commanders ain't, even with Jaden Daniels, they're not winning the East. They're not going to beat Philadelphia. The Washington's success against Dallas in the last 5 years has been pitiful. The Patriots ain't winning their division, Diesel. The Falcons, they go in the South. Panthers, Falcons. Panthers should be better. They can't be any worse, right? The Bucks.
Well, Dave Tepper says, hold my cocktail.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. These teams, they're not good. They're not good. They're just not.
Texter earlier got in and said, Dave Tepper lives by the Terrell Owens motto. I love me some me.
That's true. It's very true. The Saints in the South, I don't know, man. It's a good conversation. Again, I think the quickest success is Caleb Williams. I think the slowest is Bo Nix. Diesel says quickest is
I said
JJ?
Quickest was Jaden Daniels.
Gotcha. You're right.
Jaden Daniels, kind of by default, honestly. No. I changed it.
You changed it to JJ McCarthy. That's right.
JJ McCarthy, yes. And then slowest is going to be Drake May in New England.
Man, like, I want half of these quarterbacks to turn out really good for the sake of the game, for the sake of, their careers. But you know what's funny? We've said it all week. We've said it all month leading up to the draft. Let Spencer Rattler or a guy like Rattler go to a really good situation. I know the money is not the same. I know the money for Rattler, if he were to sign in New York, is not the same as Caleb Williams signing in Chicago. But, man, like, don't you have to look at it and think, at what point do you care about getting that money or being in the right place? It's a great conversation.
How are you defining success? Wins? Yes, Texter. That's the only way you define success in this league.
Yeah, wins.
It's the only way.
W's.
Yep. Texter says, for someone who gets their nails done, Caleb looked dusty on draft day. What do you mean? What is dusty a new slang term that I don't know?
I don't know.
Dusty? What does that mean, Texter?
I was surprised he didn't look crazier than he did, to be honest with you. I was really surprised.
I mean, if you were listening to the show yesterday, Rob and I had a yelling match on
that was
the
great.
show over Caleb Williams. We really did. Hey, when we come back, guys, we're going to change things up just a little bit. Instead of going up and down the field, we're going to go round and round in circles. We're going to bring Shane Connuck from the Charlotte Observer on the show to talk NASCAR ahead of the upcoming race at Dover this weekend. You got NASCAR questions, burning things in your brain about NASCAR? Now would be the time to text them in at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or jump on the stream and drop it as a comment. We will ask your question to the experts, to Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire. We are the Fan Upstate. It is Wire to Wire. He is Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel, and our next guest has not taken the Wayne's World approach. He has not been magically whisked away to Delaware. Hey, look, guys, we're in Delaware. Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer joins us on the show. Shane, I don't know how old you are, but every time I ask Cole, have you seen this movie? Even if it's a huge movie like Wayne's World, the answer is always, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. So it sounds like you've chosen, or were you assigned otherwise to stay in Charlotte to cover the draft?
No, I have not seen the movie Wayne's World. I am familiar with it, so I understand. I understand the joke we were going for there. I think I'm smart enough. I'm a smart enough young guy to get it.
There you go.
I'm not.
So Cole was talking to you in the break, and you said that you were in Charlotte, possibly doing something with the Carolina Panthers for the draft. I just want to know how much buzz is going around about this video of Dave Tepper stopping in there to the Dilworth Neighborhood Bar and Grill, taking a hat off of the owner, possibly his head, getting in his face. I mean, this guy's a joke, and I hope that you guys are ripping him every chance you get.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that continues to be big doings up here in Charlotte, especially with the latest. And it's just, I saw, I think it was Ryan McGee tweeted today, just a little while ago on X, that that's what goes on in Charlotte. Everybody's excited about their first round picks the day after Thursday night of the NFL draft. And here in Charlotte, we're going over a video of our owner.
You got to love it, man. You got to love it. Shane, before we get into this week's race, let's go back in time, 5 days ago to what was the disaster for a lot of people on that very last lap, including myself. What the heck Michael McDowell's thinking, having the audacity to screw up a lot of people's weekend.
That was as big as it gets, a big one to end Talladega last week. Michael McDowell, for a while looking like it was going to finally be the race, he takes a checkered flag, and nope, just Brad Keselowski trying to throw the block, and it turns McDowell around and just wrecks the whole field behind Tyler Reddick sprinting to the checkered flag. Just a crazy end to the race that gets. And I think what we also got to really highlight is that as big as that was, and as many drivers as the big one took out after the white flag, with about 30 laps to go in the final stage, that was when Eric Jones wrecked. And basically what kind of happened there, John Hunter Nemechek got into Bubba Wallace, and Eric Jones got into the wall really hard. He was released from the infield care center, told reporters his back was sore, but then he had to go back to the care center and eventually transported to the local hospital in Birmingham. Got released from the hospital around 12:30 in the morning, and he is going to be out of this coming race this week. So Eric Jones, fortunately, he is all right, but he has a spinal fracture, and like I said, not racing this next week. And that was not even in the big one, let alone all the drivers who had their chances at a win last week, or at a strong finish negated right at the very end. And Brad Keselowski, who was, kind of really played a big role starting that, got into second place. And then after that, some other drivers who had strong runs got rewarded with top 10 finishes.
He is Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer, joining us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. This weekend, Shane, we're going to see Jimmy Johnson getting back behind the wheel. He's got the most wins at Dover of any active driver. I say active in air quotes because, well, he's not racing full time. But it's interesting that, he's found so much success at Dover. He's coming back for this race. And, you juxtapose that to the news that we got earlier today that Matt Kenseth has ruled out a return even on a part-time basis. Is it just kind of a nostalgia tour for Jimmy Johnson to go out and run this race, or do you think he has a real shot to perform?
Thus far, with the races in which Jimmy Johnson has run, it's kind of felt like that. It's kind of felt like it's been more of that nostalgia tour, and the idea of Jimmy Johnson being in the race, that he always drove the 48, and now he's driving an 84, and he's always in a Chevrolet, and now he's in a Toyota in this new era of the sport. And then by lap 40 or so, he's been running in the back, and then he's probably involved with a wreck. And then we're not talking about Jimmy Johnson for the rest of the race. So could that change at Dover, where he is an 11-time winner, the most, like you guys said, of any other driver? I think there's always a possibility. He's Jimmy Johnson. And so driving the number 84 this weekend at Dover, I think that you never know. And it's in, like I said, and that's what we were saying a lot at Daytona, and he did end up wrecking out early that time, like was alluding to, but he's always a threat, especially in a track like Delaware.
Hey, Shane, there are only 3 full-time drivers who have found success at Dover, which is really crazy to think about. When you look at Truex, being the guy who has had success there recently, do you feel like this is just as mixed of a bag as any track they're racing on right now?
Yeah, and I think that something with Truex is that big thing to note, it's his home track. And a lot of times you talk about that with certain drivers. They perform well at their home track, or maybe they don't always perform well, but you're always hyping up the storyline because it's their home track, especially with Kyle Busch in Las Vegas. But Martin Truex Jr., a native of South Jersey, every time he goes to Dover, that is his home track. And like you said, Martin's a top driver there every time. 4 wins, the most of any active driver at Dover Motor Speedway. Just something a little bit different about racing at your home track, especially this one being another mile-long track, just similar to the 1.5 miles that a lot of the standard tracks at the Cup Series level.
Shane, I know that you have really kind of just begun your career covering NASCAR. You said it's kind of something that you've gotten into over the past 2 seasons or so, but I'd like to know, in your short time covering, what is your most prized NASCAR collectible? At this point, you've got to be gathering a few little things here or there. Maybe it's something that, is just representative of a moment that you had so far covering this, but is there anything really cool that's sitting on Shane Connuck's desk?
Most of what I honestly do always keep is as little as it is, but in addition to credentials and stuff like that, is even my tags in the media center, handouts, anything that they give out, I'm always keeping and kind of like a little bit old school looking back at. But in NASCAR, I haven't been able to, and I think if this thing differs it a little bit from other sports, it's not like, even you get somebody's jersey or you having a certain driver's paint schemes and just, a lot different. So I'm definitely waiting for that big, whether it's like obviously you do little things like a car or something like that to kind of have, but I don't have anything that particular other than trying to collect as many little things as I can to figure out what kinds of cool NASCAR items that someone who covers the sport a while would have laying around.
Well, Shane, before you ask, it's not for sale, but this is something that I picked up as a little kid. It was it's a cowboy hat painted up in Richard Petty's red and blue scheme, and it's autographed right in the forehead by Richard Petty. You can't have it. It's even got the fur and the fringe around it, like his hat always had. But you can't have it. So I just want to let you know that I've got that. Be jealous, but it's not for sale.
Oh wow, that's a good one. That's a very good one. And then you see that cowboy hat at every NASCAR track this year. So a life-size version of it, and so you've got the sounds like the really specific desk version of the iconic cowboy hat.
Hey, Shane, do you think that with NASCAR announcing their Hall of Fame nominees Wednesday of this week, do you think it's time for Greg Biffle to get in, the only driver who's won the Truck Series in 2000 and then the Xfinity Series in 2002, I believe? Yeah.
I think it will be soon. I mean, as again, somebody a little newer to the sport, was the kind of thing that I had heard about him and seen. These different guys are potentially going to get in this year, but I do everything I've seen. I think that he is due to getting forever enshrined in Uptown Charlotte.
Shane, NASCAR released a graphic yesterday of playoff points following Talladega. William Byron has 15. Denny Hamlin has 12. Kyle Larson, 10. For those of us, and I'm including myself in this, who don't understand the NASCAR playoff point system because it's changed from the era that I watched a lot of NASCAR, can you fill us in on how that point system works and how having 15 is better than having 12?
Absolutely. And guys, it's a little bit different also in that it feels like when a driver wins, they get locked into the playoffs. And that is almost true, but the reality is that it almost assuredly locks you in once you win a race. Because of the point system now, which is accumulated from stage points, top 10 after each stage, the top 10 after each race, and for the entirety of the season, that ends up the top 16 at the very end are the drivers who qualify for the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. So at this point, being at the top of that with William Byron and Denny Hamlin having won multiple races and gaining all those points, they are officially 100% locked in. But despite the fact that you've seen different winners this year, we've had a lot of talk about the playoffs. William Byron and Denny Hamlin are the only drivers who are actually currently locked in with the way this is. Most of the other drivers who have won will almost 99.9% chance end up getting in the playoffs as well. But it goes to show you how many little things go into it. And then we're going to end up noticing when you have certain drivers like even Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman, it feels like even Michael McDowell, it feels like they have been winning poles, running well, but haven't won a race like a lot of drivers. But the reality is that there are a lot of little things it's going to continue to come down to. But at the end of the day, if any of those drivers end up winning a race at any point, they will almost assuredly be in the playoffs. So overall, when the playoffs they've done a lot of different things with the playoffs as it keeps expanding. And I talked about this a few weeks ago, but I do think that it is kind of a similar concept to the way that the playoffs in other major sports leagues are evolving. With the way that sports in general keep expanding, they keep having to add more rounds and more teams to have more postseason competition. And so you're seeing, for example, in Major League Baseball now that you're having the playoffs start to get to the point that they have so much parity that last year the Arizona Diamondbacks, who barely made it into the postseason, end up winning the National League pennant. And similarly, I feel like in NASCAR, the last few years, you've seen drivers like Austin Cindric and Michael McDowell and Austin Dillon end up in victory lane at the Daytona 500. And now that we've been 20 or so years of the playoff championship for all that stuff evolving, you're starting to see a driver like William Byron, who's really emerging as a superstar, win the Daytona 500. You're seeing different drivers really compete for the championship, and potentially then the playoffs, as it continues to have more rounds, it's going to continue to be more, I wouldn't say it's not legitimate before, but before it kind of feels like, okay, it's a crapshoot and some guys end up with the championship four. And I think it's really becoming more and more, it's NASCAR, it's going to be random, it's going to be, a lot's going to happen and wild, but I think that we're really, this playoff system is starting to allow us to see the best racing. It's starting to allow these really competitive drivers to have to really execute little things right, and the best ones are really starting to emerge.
You can follow him on Twitter at Shane_Connuck. Shane, I want to ask, do you think the aggression will be dialed up as we keep getting closer and closer to the midway point? Obviously, we'll switch networks in a few months from now and try to take this thing home. But like I think back to this past Sunday with Michael McDowell, that a lot of NASCAR fans say that NASCAR or that Michael McDowell, that was his chance to win, right? Last week was his track. It was his chance to win. And you have a guy like that talking about the playoffs who is not in the playoffs now because of what happened on the very last lap in Talladega. Do you think that's good for the sport when we talk about the playoffs as we build up? You have guys like McDowell trying to be a little bit more aggressive down the stretch.
No, you're right. And that's a really good point, especially a guy like McDowell that it feels like might not necessarily get that chance again and having to race that hard. And then you notice other drivers sometimes just kind of acknowledge that they're not going to win and just be shooting for a 10th place finish at absolute best sometimes, who are strong drivers and are winning other races. And so I do think that that's another one of those things that we're going to continue to see it evolve with, when those lesser drivers kind of really have to, like you said, race that hard. And then again, the hard racing is something that is definitely a problem, especially as NASCAR drivers come up. And in the Truck Series last year, which is one of the lower series of NASCAR, there was in the championship just a ton of among the four championship four drivers, just a ton of hard racing, to the point that infamously in the NASCAR world that Carson Hocevar, who's now in the Cup Series, ended up wrecking Corey Heim, who was the points leader and felt like he was on his way to a championship. And then you started, and then there were a bunch of wrecks that race, and it became a whole talking point about people wrecking each other. But the point just is that as these drivers are coming up, they're kind of is that old school, really wanting to race really hard mentality. And then obviously there's the new NASCAR mentality of really emphasizing safety and being competitive and sportsmanlike and all of that. Not that there wasn't a lot of that before, but the point just is, and I've heard Kyle Busch, older driver in today's world, talk about that a lot of these up and coming drivers want to race so hard and feel like they have to race so hard, and are starting to learn about how to really, kind of control themselves and realize, the bigger picture a lot of times during races.
Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer covers NASCAR, covers other types of motorsports as well. Shane, I saw that you just wrote an article about NHRA. I've only been to one NHRA race, but what blows me away, Shane, is when you get down into the pits and you see that guy, there's always one who stands there and breathes in that nitromethane and just absolutely loves it. It's one of the most noxious smells you'll ever smell, but there's always that dude who stands there, breathes it in, and loves it. How do you feel about it? Can you stand it, or like because you've been covering it a little bit, what's your feeling on that stuff?
I haven't, and let me tell you, the experience of a drag race, and if you haven't been out to one yet, I'd highly recommend it. 4 Wide Nationals going on here in Concord today and tomorrow. It is something different. When you're standing up there in the pits, like you said, the smells, the sounds, if you think it's loud at a NASCAR track, which it is, when you hear these these cars that they go, they're just shooting up, going over 200 miles an hour in just 4 seconds, just how loud it is, these engines, and like you said, the smells around there, it is just a different experience.
And to watch these mechanics completely break an engine down, rebuild it, put it back together, break it in, and then go run it one time and do it all over again, Shane, that's one of those things that just, it boggles my mind how these mechanics are able to do this so fast.
It does.
Hey, Shane, great stuff, man. As always, we sure do appreciate you taking time out of your busy weekend to hop on with us and talk a little NASCAR. Our audience is loving what you're doing on our program, and we can't wait to talk to you again next week.
I'm really happy to hear that, and thank you guys a lot for the opportunity, as always, and excited to talk with you guys again as we head next week into Kansas.
You can follow him on Twitter at Shane_Connuck. He's the absolute best when it comes to NASCAR. A lot of good conversation there about Dover this weekend, who he likes, what he thought about the craziest ending, in my opinion, of a race this season. Last week was just wild the way that race ended. What was crazy about it is, Diesel, that race last week, as I'm watching, it was the first race, number one, that I actually was able to watch wire to wire, start to finish, because there were so few cautions. But then at the very end, of course, a race where there's so few cautions, the way it's got to be scripted is it's going to end with a wreck that, basically kills the whole field. So great stuff from Shane, as always. Coming up next, we look at not what happened last night in the NFL draft, but the best players that are still on the board, giving your team a little bit more hope. He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. Last night's draft, round 1, is in the books. It was an entertaining draft, but now we look to what players are left. What players on the board can give your team hope, can still improve your roster, because that's the phase that we're in now, right? It's roster building, adding depth, adding guys that you feel like maybe is a steal in the second round. Diesel and I are going to tell you, in our opinion, the best players still available in the NFL draft. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Phone lines open as well. 844-FAN phone. Before we dive in, let's go to Delvin, who wants to talk about the NFL draft. What's up, Delvin?
What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
We're wonderful, man.
Great, Delvin.
Yeah, I love what the Panthers did last night. You know, going up and get the guy you wanted and you get the 50-year option. But my best reaction of the night was Terry Fontenot had to explain to Arthur Blank why he chose the quarterback at 8 pick. If you saw the cameras, he was explaining to it because Arthur Blank's like, hey, I just gave a man $100 million guaranteed. You drafting the quarterback. I don't know if y'all saw that camera shot, but that was funny. He had to explain to him on camera why he chose the quarterback last night.
That's pretty bad when you have to explain to him, right?
Arthur Blank's like the grandpa. He's like, you know what, Terry, I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, I'm just disappointed. Yeah. But I love the move. And everybody talking about them. And interesting move that also took place last night that nobody is talking about is what the 49ers did, taking a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that tells me either Brandon Ayuk is getting traded or Deebo Samuel is getting traded.
It's a great point. I saw some reports this morning that we're going to get to in the program. Really good point, because there is some, I don't want to say legs to that, but there are some rumors flying around about Ayuk.
Deebo's been unhappy for a while, so.
Yeah, I think they can't pay both because they just paid Deebo. I think it's going to be Deebo who lead. They're going to pay. I think they're going to pay Ayuk because he's the outside receiver. And I think they're going to trade Deebo because Deebo do the same thing. I think Pierce will do the same thing Deebo do.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the call, Delvin. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, third time I call, guys.
844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. It's the Renewal by Anderson fan phone line. You can get your thoughts in there. Diesel, best player still available. I do like what Daniel Jeremiah did in the top 150, and we talked about that earlier in the week, right? His 150, however, a good many of those are off the board. So as you look through guys that didn't get picked last night, Cooper DeJean, cornerback, Iowa, I kind of thought that he might go last night with his size, speed. I thought that he was a first-round guy. I thought Green Bay might get him, but they didn't. Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois. And how about this one? A great day, too, right here, Diesel. Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama.
Yep, that's true. I mean, there's a lot of big-name guys
wire to wire
who I expected to be first-round guys that are still available. This is one that, man, I have been beating the drum for a long time, especially to Carolina. A.D. Mitchell from Texas, wide receiver. That dude is a go up and get the ball, springs in his shoes kind of dude. And I'm shocked that he's still there. I mean, it wouldn't have shocked me if his counterpart, whose name, gosh, is blanking me off the top of my head. There was another receiver coming out of Texas.
Yeah.
Who I expected to go, who I expected to go after A.D. Mitchell. Who I do believe went in the first round.
The Texas receiver?
Yeah.
He did go.
What's his name? I'm blanking on his name.
He went to, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm looking now. The Texas receiver, where'd he go last night? Did he go to the Jaguars? No, that was Brian Thomas from LSU. Xavier Worthy. He went to the Chiefs.
Yeah, I expected Xavier Worthy because he's just a little bit smaller of a guy.
Yeah.
I expected him to go after A.D. Mitchell. I mean, everybody's needs are different, right?
Sure.
I mean, shout out to Xavier Worthy and the situation he just found himself in. I mean, that is as good as it gets.
Yes.
Jeez, and now his counterpart there from Texas, who again I thought was a more attractive wide receiver.
Yeah,
would have gone already. A.D. Mitchell, but hey, that means the Carolina Panthers sitting there at 39. Would they be so bold as to take two wide receivers in the same draft?
Be interesting.
I mean, that would very clearly plant the flag and say, hey, we're getting you everything you need, Bryce Young. Look at us. We are investing in you.
844-FAN phone. Creed from Cowpens wants to chime in. What's up, man?
Hey, just a quick refute. You don't just replace Deebo Samuel. It's like it ain't nothing. you know, you're talking about a very proven, incredible player. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these college kids, good, they may pan out, they may not. But you're trading a commodities for somebody you don't know. That just seems crazy.
Well, that's true, but big name guys get traded all the time. It's because they want more money, right? And these teams have to move money off the books. I mean, if I'm San Francisco, I sure as hell don't want to move off of Deebo Samuel. That dude is phenomenal. But sometimes you just have to.
Yeah, I'm no on the finances are what they are. But man, when you're that team, they look like the best team in the NFL. I would hold on to it as long as I reasonably can. Money's the money, but man, it's hard to let it go.
Thanks for the call, Creed. 844-FAN phone. Listen, they just signed Deebo Samuel. So, my opinion, San Francisco, they'd be stupid to let him walk.
Somebody's going to have to throw some serious money at them.
No, Deebo does. I don't know why he'd be unhappy. I have seen reports and rumors, though. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But there are still some really good guys. Ladd McConkey, Georgia wide receiver, Diesel. He was Daniel Jeremiah's 30th best guy. And guess what? He didn't get picked last night.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you know, to keep spinning things back here local to the Carolina Panthers, it all just depends on what they want to try to address with 39.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
Again, it would be a big time, feather in the cap for Bryce Young to go get 2 wide receivers. I'm not sure they go that direction. I mean, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman still there on the board. I mean, they have so many issues they need to address, and just focusing on wide receiver may not be the best strategy. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Enos Rakestraw, Cooper DeJean, all 3 really good cornerbacks that could take a little bit of the pressure off of that room. You got Edrin Cooper at linebacker, who may be a quality addition. Jackson Powers Johnson, O-line.
That's who I was going to bring up. Yeah, I think he goes early today.
Yeah, he played all 3 interior O-line positions at Oregon, even played some defensive line there as well, but he's expected to play center in the NFL. The question is, how committed are the Carolina Panthers to leaving Austin Corbett at center? Zach Frazier, the center from West Virginia, that a lot of people have had really good things to say about. He's still on the board as well. And then defensive tackle Jarzon Newton from Illinois. You mentioned him. He's there available as well. Maybe if they want to try to help things out on the edge and getting after the quarterback, that might be where they go with 39.
We'll see.
When we come back, Cole, you and I are going to duke it out. It is time for our daily tradition, the 5 o'clock fight. 3 topics you and I have to disagree. We have to put our dukes up, and you, the Tolos, tell us who wins. That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. Hey, Cole, did you see that? College Game Day is there at the draft, and they're ripping off our segments. Best player available.
How'd they know that we just did that?
Desmond Howard must be listening to the show.
You think he has an earpiece?
Yeah.
Listen to Wire to Wire.
What's up, Desmond? Appreciate you checking out the show.
Hold on, let me hear what Cole says. Let me hear what Diesel says.
A little bit of credit, though.
Yeah.
For coming up with that brilliant segment, best player available.
I love it.
Welcome into the Fan Upstate. Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. However you're listening to the show, we appreciate you, whether you're listening to it live over the air.
Oh, yeah.
97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. If you're listening after the fact on a podcast somewhere, thank you so much. Whatever platform it is you listen to our podcast, do us a favor. If you haven't already, hit the like button, the subscribe button. Leave us a review if you can do that. We would certainly appreciate that. Cole, we do this segment each and every day.
We do.
Where you and I must disagree. Very often you and I agree on a lot of things, but in this segment, at this time, every day, we must fight it out about whatever the topic may be. Sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's not. It's time for the 5 o'clock fight. Trey on the stream says, not so fast, my friend. Thank you, Trey.
Lee.
Appreciate you paying attention there. So here it is, the 5 o'clock fight, 3 rounds. We disagree. You tell us who wins each round of the fight and who wins overall. How you do that is you listen critically. You take notes if you have to, but then you text the show at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Let us know who wins each round of the fight. You can also suggest things for us to fight about. We'll tell you how to do that at the very end of this little thing. So 3 fights, 3 rounds. Let's get to it. Chicken wings, Cole. You and I love chicken wings.
Yes.
And I don't even care if they're boneless chicken wings. I understand that's just a chicken tender cut into little pieces.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm fine with it. They're still delicious. Everybody hates on boneless chicken wings. It's delicious. There's less work to do. What's not to like about that?
I'm a traditional guy all day, man.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'm just saying there's room for both. There's room for all 3. There's room for flats. There's room for drums, and there's room for boneless as well. But chicken wings, Cole, do you like your chicken wings dry rubbed or sauced?
I'm glad you asked, because we had some great chicken wings yesterday from Dave and Buster's, and they were wonderful because they were sauced. Wet rub, man. Wet rub. Give me the wet. Give me the messy. Give me the more flavor, the better. I want to have to lick my fingers when it's all said and done. I'm a wet rub guy. I want to be able to just taste the flavor on my tongue.
I'm going to make a promo out of you saying I'm a wet rub guy.
Let's do it.
Believe it. Believe that is going to be on
It's
a
the
promo.
best, man.
No,
Wet rub,
Cole,
man.
The answer is dry rub. I want the flavor, not the mess. I can still dip my dry rub wings in whatever I want to. I could dip it in the ranch. I could dip it in the blue cheese. Or I could dip it in nothing at all. I like the dry rub, mostly because I like things that are really salty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. We all do. I love the salty dry rub. Give me the dry rub all day, every day. You say sauced, wet wings.
Yes.
What do you say? 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Who wins that round? Let's go to round 2. Did Atlanta make a horrible decision, a horrible mistake by drafting another quarterback after signing Kirk Cousins to a 4-year deal?
I love this. I absolutely love this. Did they make a mistake? Diesel, I'll tell you this. They picked the best player available. And while we look at it and think, oh, man, Michael Penix, Kirk Cousins is already there. Surely this is going to blow up in their face. They did what every fan base asks their ownership and GM to do by picking the best player available. So guess what? I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, let's wait and see, because maybe old Kirk, Achilles Kirk, may not last as long as we think.
That's like having Adam Vinatieri and saying, you know what, let's draft Justin Tucker too.
Might as well.
Hey, we're really good at that position. You know what the best part is? Nobody else has Justin Tucker. That's the only way that trade makes sense, Cole, is if you think somebody in your division wanted to draft Michael Penix.
Yeah.
No, it's a stupid pick. You drafted an older college quarterback after just paying an aging pro quarterback, and you didn't tell your aging pro that you were going to do it. And so you just completely demolished your locker room in one fell swoop. Why would you make such a DA decision? I don't get it. You're 7-10 last year. You had a ton of other needs. So you draft to get better at a position that you are already okay at. Doesn't make any
I'm just
sense.
trying to be Mr. Optimistic. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to breathe a little bit of hope and life into the Atlanta Falcons fan base because they haven't been relevant in a very long time. Listen, they blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl to Tom Brady. I'm trying to just give them a little bit of hope.
Okay, well, I've been right about rounds 1 and 2, so I'm going to give you some hope to maybe get one back. It's time for round 3. Should the NBA and NHL playoffs avoid scheduling games on day 1 of the NFL draft?
Absolutely not. You cannot mess up with the scheduling with the playoff. If it were regular season, I'd be okay with it. But the way the playoffs fall, the way that you have to have a certain amount of days between games and get right back to it, no, you can't mess with it. You have to leave it as is. If you want to watch both, get YouTube TV.
No, look. I have the numbers. 12 million people watched the NFL draft last year. The ratings are massive for the NFL draft. There's no way you're competing against that. There's no way you're pulling ratings against that. You have to make a decision. You have to make a business decision and say, you know what? The NFL draft is so huge. It's going to kill our ratings for game 3s. Important games were being played last night in the NHL.
Yeah.
But nobody was watching. Because all NHL fans are football fans, Cole, but not all football fans are NHL fans. You have to make the smart decision and go chase the ratings on the next night.
Unless you were at Dave and Buster's,
Yeah.
where they had a million TVs.
Or unless you're a Canadian, all you got to do is watch hockey and, you know,
They don't care about the draft.
They don't care about
They
the
might
draft.
not have even known the draft took place
Probably
last
didn't.
night. You never know.
Probably didn't. So there you go. The results. Round 1, chicken wings. Cole says he wants his wet and sauced. I want mine dry rubbed. Round 2, did Atlanta make a terrible decision by drafting Michael Penix Jr.? Cole said, no, give it some time. Let's see how this plays out. I said, you just blew up your locker room. And round 3, should the NBA and NHL playoffs avoid scheduling games on day 1 of the NFL draft? Cole says, no, you can't do that. You can't mess up your travel schedules and things like that. I say, you should absolutely avoid scheduling on day 1 of the NFL draft because, well, you're never going to pull any ratings in your games. What do you say? Who won each round? Text in 71307. Yeah, we got to throw a huge shout out to Madcraft, man. He is killing it, sending us ideas. Sometimes we'll use your ideas exactly the way you've written them. Sometimes we'll tweak them a little bit. You know, look at it a slightly different way than what you may have written in. But hey, guys, we want you to send us your fights. What would you like Cole and I to argue about? We'll argue about anything on the show.
I like Trey's text going back to the Falcons conversation. Trey says, I think the Falcons could have sold a lot of Brock Bowers jerseys. That's a good point, Trey. That's a good point. Being in Georgia, a lot of Georgia Bulldog fans are also Atlanta Falcons fans, right?
What you're saying, Trey, you are absolutely right. They would have sold a lot of Brock Bowers jerseys, but you can't make your decisions. I mean, who are we, the Jaguars? You can't make your decisions based on who you could put on your roster that would sell the most number of jerseys. And we all know that's why Tim Tebow was put on the Jags roster there for a little while. They tested the waters of maybe moving him to a tight end because they wanted to sell some jerseys.
Don't tell the Pittsburgh Steelers that. So he beat in the playoffs.
Hey, You know, what did they gave him a random weird number,
Yeah.
right, in his preseason, and I'm sure they sold a blue million Tim Tebow jerseys there in Jacksonville. And then if he had made the roster, which was a long shot, but if he had made the roster, they could have switched him to whatever his traditional number was.
Yeah.
And then sold a ton more jerseys all over again. It would have been a really smart business move.
Madcraft says they've got to be saucy and messy, talking about the wings. He likes.
I thought you were talking about women, man.
Well, he does say, he goes on to say he likes his wings like he loves, or like he likes his love life, says Madcraft. So he says Cole round 1, Diesel round 2, Cole round 3. I appreciate the win from Madcraft today. On the text line, Gordon says Cole 1 and 2, Diesel 3.
Gordon, what have I done to offend you? Gordon, every day.
Does he never agree with you?
Pick Cole. Why?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, we got to go back, man. I think it's like 90-10.
I'm on a streak.
Percentage-wise, the chances that Gordon is going to pick you, Cole. Maybe he's got the hots for you. I don't know.
He's a little biased.
The fix is in.
A little
Gordon,
biased.
tell us your last name. Are you Gordon Bryson? Tell us the truth.
I'm not.
Are you two related?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. Fat Paid says Diesel finally lost a round. You definitely lost round 1.
I like what I like.
You know what? I like both. I just like the wet sauce a little more. The barbecue we had last night at Dave & Buster's were phenomenal.
Yeah.
My only problem with dry rub wings is sometimes I feel like they skimp you a little bit.
Well,
like they're not all the way. I want them just covered in it.
Yeah. Look, all these are good. Like you're asking me to choose, what do I like better? Blondes, brunettes, or redheads? They're all good.
1A, 1B.
Yeah, they're all good.
Yeah, we have to disagree,
But
by the way.
I also have a long mustache, okay? And I have a big
little
beard.
messy.
And if I eat really messy wings, that stuff's getting all in there.
Save it for later.
And I'm gonna be finding little bits of sticky in my mustache for hours after I eat really messy wings.
You know what we need to do? I really am pissed off right now, by the way.
Wings?
Besides that, number one, I'm pissed because I'm hungry now. Really, really hungry. I want wings. Wings are my favorite. We need to do this summer when sports slows down and we only have, baseball? Is that right? Baseball, summertime. We need to do a tour of the upstate wings edition.
Ooh.
Because there's some good wings here.
You had me at wings.
But we need to find out the best, man. We need to find the absolute best. So
I do like that idea.
I don't know how we could do it. We could get some little sponsorship involved, get somebody to throw some money at it, and let's sponsor the thing and go on a tour de wings.
Yeah.
Spartanburg, Greenville, we'll include those two, right?
Go county by county and figure out which county has the best wings.
You'd have to give the nod to Greenville because they have more restaurants, right?
It's not about quantity, it's about quality.
Oh, okay, yeah. I have some that are not sponsors that I'm not going to say off the top of my head. There's some that are in Greenville that are, you know what the best wings are, in my opinion? Smoked. I'm a smoked wing guy. They're the best.
Oh, gosh.
They're just freaking amazing.
You know, you got to be willing to take your time sometimes, you know?
There's a place in downtown Greenville that has some. Have you had those that I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have. I think I know what you're talking about.
It rhymes with axe.
That's not where I thought, but
the name of it rhymes with axe.
I'm gonna figure this place out.
And the second name rhymes with freed, and the third name rhymes with pop. You should be able to guess.
This is like getting the clues at Ingles on
every
other Wednesday.
Yes.
It's hard to figure it out.
One text says the best wings come from local Q. We'll have to try it. Well, we have to put this. Let's put some effort into this. Let's get it sponsored, and let's find out just where the best wings may be. Because who doesn't love wings? Is there anybody in the world that says, "Oh, I don't like wings"? I mean, come on. If you don't like wings,
yeah, terrorists.
Something might be
like
wrong.
Wings.
Something might be wrong.
Trey says, I like lemon pepper wings and their dry rub. I got boneless wings last night because I planned on shaking hands with people last night.
Trey said that?
Smart. That's smart,
Trey.
Trey was there.
Oh,
yeah,
yes. He did get boneless wings. He's right. He did get boneless wings. I was sitting beside him when he ordered them. They looked good. Listen, I'm not opposed to boneless wings. I'll eat them. But for whatever reason, I don't know why, I like I guess the texture and the taste a little bit more of the traditional. I'm a traditional.
Cole
I like
likes the
that
sloppy. What can
bone.
you say?
Joey says the best wings in the upstate come from
Why was I talking over that? I could have made that a promo too.
That's a good thing. Joey says the best wings in the upstate come from my backyard on my Oklahoma Joe smoker. How about that?
Where's our invitation?
Just homemade wings, homemade smoked. See, Joey agrees
Joey.
the best wings are smoked. The Joey, yeah, you might have to send some of those by the station. We'll give you the address and have to sample some of those. Oh my gosh, Bobby agrees. Bobby agrees. He says you are right. Max Speed Shop, free advertising today only, does have good wings. Thank you, Bobby, for agreeing. Well, let's get us a sponsor. Let's get the Tolos involved, Diesel.
Yeah, we need to get like a gas station to sponsor this thing because we're going to be driving all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Free gas.
Yeah. Free gas to send us to these places.
It's a good idea. We can get the Tolos involved and we can get them to send us suggestions, right, for the wings. And we have to think of something what the winner would get. What would the winner get of the wing Tour Day Wings Day Upstate, whatever we call it? We have to rank them maybe. Maybe we do power rankings. Maybe we do top 10, top 5. Because you would think in Spartanburg, as big as Greenville is, you're probably talking quality. You're probably talking 20 to 25. Now, here's the question. Do you include chains in that?
Hey, chains can have great.
They have great wings. They do. I'm just asking. I just want to make sure. Good. Good. I agree. I like.
Say, look at any chain. Like it's still a local restaurant. It's just, it's there's local people working there. There's a local manager.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Because I like some chain wings. I don't want to give out any more free advertising, but I do. Wings, I think everybody agrees and can come around to food, right?
It's one of those things that brings us all together. Mayonnaise, ranch dressing, chicken wings.
So we'll get a tour. We'll get a this summer once the sports start to slow down. Diesel and I think we already talked about this anyways, doing some version of that. But this time we'll make it we'll revolve it around wings. However,
Dexter, you're right. This is a bad joke. I'm not even going to read.
Yeah, we can't read that.
I'm not going to read that.
However, we can't do. Here's the one caveat: if we do the Tour Day Wings Day Upstate, we have to do traditional for the tour, right? We can't do boneless.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise,
just want to make sure.
Otherwise, it's just chicken tender.
That's what I was going to say.
Cut into pieces.
Chickens don't have boneless wings.
You're not fooling us. You're not fooling us, Chick-fil-A, with your nuggets. Those are nuggets. They're not anything. You can't call them wings. They're nuggets.
No, they're nuggets. All right, coming up next, Spencer Rattler. He is now, in my opinion, Diesel, the best quarterback remaining. Can you believe I just said that in the draft? Where do we see Spencer going today? Round 2 or round 3? What does Robert Griffin III have to say about Spencer Rattler, the South Carolina Gamecock? We'll get to it next. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. All right, coming back here in hour number 3 of Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I am Cole Bryson. Together we are the newest show in the upstate. I want to talk about Spencer Rattler of South Carolina because, as we predicted, South Carolina's Spencer Rattler would probably go in round 2 or 3. Diesel, we didn't expect him to go last night. I do think that there are a lot of analysts who are trying to use Spencer Rattler as maybe a little hot take just to try to be right, years down the road. I don't think RG3 is doing that, but I do have some audio from RG3 talking about Rattler being one of the best sleepers at quarterback in the NFL draft. And I want to hear from you, the Tolos, the audience. Tolo stands for Turn It On, Leave It On. That's what we ask you to do on this very program, 3 to 7 p.m. You can text the show 71307. Where do you see Spencer Rattler going? I want to play this for you on what Robert Griffin III has to say about Spencer Rattler being the steal of the draft.
On this episode of our Dragon Ball Z times NFL draft project, we got the QB steal of the draft, Spencer Rattler, the quarterback from South Carolina. And he is Super Saiyan 2 Team Gohan. The distinction is important. But before we get there, let me show you what I saw on tape. Of all the quarterbacks in this year's draft class, Spencer Rattler probably had the worst offensive line. No hate on them because he never complained about it, but it shows up routinely throughout his tape. But right here, you are going to see the man, Spencer Rattler, with his identification pre-snap, owning the line of scrimmage, and also operating in tense quarters. Right here, Spencer Rattler, before the snap of this ball, is walking up. And you see that point right there. He's pointing to this linebacker right here. And my man said, "Hey, bro, what you pointing at me for? Why you got to point at me? I'm not blitzing." Yes, he is. And Spencer Rattler is actually not telling the offensive line to go to that guy. What he's doing is he's telling the running back, "Hey, you're responsible for blocking that guy." Sometimes we think every time the quarterback goes up and points at someone, he's talking to the offensive line or he's trying to redirect things. Spencer Rattler is just trying to make sure that he's protected right here. And he needs his running back to know, hey, that's your guy. So watch him get back because he sees the clock is running down and he gets this ball snapped. And guess who blitzes?
So, Diesel, Robert Griffin really praises and goes on to praise his pre-snap ability. Mm-hmm. And in the NFL, we know that a successful quarterback needs to have a really good, really high IQ and be able to process not only before the snap, but process quickly what he sees from the defense. Spencer Rattler being the steal of the draft, I hope that Robert Griffin III is right. Do you think that Spencer Rattler ends up in a situation, Diesel, because we talk about situation a lot. I'm big on situation where you end up. Do you think he ends up in a situation that allows him to be the steal? Because let's be honest, if you go somewhere that, has a bad franchise, a bad culture, it's not going to be good for Spencer.
Spencer Rattler would have been the right choice for the Atlanta Falcons at 43. He would have been. He would have been. I mean, you telling me that Spencer Rattler learning behind Kirk Cousins as probably 22 years old? You telling me that wouldn't be a great spot? And how many South Carolina Gamecock fans would love to have seen Spencer just down the road there in Atlanta? Would have been a great choice for the Falcons there. Alas, that's not what they did. Will he go to a good situation? Well, as of right now, Cole, he is listed as this was pre-first round, okay? He was listed as the 89th best prospect with 32 off the board.
Sure.
He should be right around the 67th best guy left. But he is the best quarterback left. And I'm just looking here, Cole, and I'm wondering who needs a little quarterback depth. Maybe the Bills. I don't know. That's a stretch there. It's possible. Patriots aren't taking a quarterback at 34. Cardinals aren't taking one at 35. Commanders not at 36. No Chargers at 37. Maybe the Titans.
Okay. What's your name?
That might be an interesting situation there. 38 to the Tennessee Titans. Without digging too deep in what the Tennessee Titans' needs are. What is it? Is Ryan Tannehill still the quarterback there?
In Tennessee?
The quarterback at Tennessee.
Yes, I believe you're right. Without researching, without looking.
Will Levis. Excuse me. Well, that would be a really interesting situation now. Excuse us for not knowing that Will Levis is QB1 in Tennessee.
You know,
that is an intriguing situation there because Will Levis may be able to be that guy for Tennessee. He may be able to go out there and be a solid starter for them this year. But I don't have a whole lot of faith in Will Levis being that guy, which means Spencer Rattler would very easily have a chance to earn the QB1 job mid to late season, if not going into his second year.
I don't know how much truth there is to this, but I saw on Twitter earlier at ML Football tweeted out, Diesel, a report that the New York Giants have been linked to South Carolina quarterback Spencer Rattler with their second-round pick. Now, the Giants today pick, let's see how early they go. It's not early.
They have 47.
So that's the thing.
The middle of the
pack.
Are
is he gonna be there at 47? You're right. 47.
Yeah.
I would hope so. I would hope so that a team like New York, because I don't think that'd be a terrible landing spot because let's be honest, everybody doesn't, no one's really bought in on Daniel Jones. So I don't think Spencer Rattler landing in New York would be a terrible landing spot, but I would be interesting to see what's interesting about this, Diesel, is if Rattler's even there at 47 when New York picks, because that'd be, you'd have teams like Buffalo, LA, maybe a Las Vegas. I've heard links with maybe Rattler in Las Vegas at 44. I think 45, New Orleans, they may have a little interest there as well.
I could see 44 with the Raiders. I could see that.
I could too.
I mean, going back to Tennessee, they just signed Will Levis.
Sure.
And that would be saying we automatically don't trust you.
Yeah.
So that would be disadvantageous in the locker room. But the Raiders have kind of an up in the air quarterback situation with Aiden O'Connell.
Very up in the air.
So
very.
You're telling me he could go to Las Vegas and battle it out immediately for starting time.
Absolutely, he could.
That's not a bad spot. If you're him, like I said, it kind of depends on what the Raiders draft needs are and how they feel about Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell's not a long-term guy by any stretch of the imagination. He did have the last 10 starts of the season in 2023 when they made a coaching change. But
the list on silverandblackpride.com for the Raiders' most glaring needs at this point: offensive tackle, cornerback, quarterback, and defensive tackle.
So not far-fetched.
So QB is on their list.
Okay.
It is on their wish list.
844-FAN-PHONE is the way you can get in touch with the show, 844-326-3663. Dale wants to chime in on the conversation. What's up, Dale?
Hey, how you doing, Cole?
Wonderful, man.
Hey, Dale.
Hey, so assuming that, the draft falls like it is, you're talking about those quarterback needing teams, New Orleans. You did include Vegas. I heard a lot of talk about the Chargers, but I don't know if Harbaugh would move off of Herbert, but Herbert doesn't have anyone to throw to anyway. What would the chances be that he would fall to the third round? And Cole, this is mainly directed towards you.
I know where it's going.
Cowboys fans through and through, man.
Yes.
If this truly is Dak's last year, could we not get him to sit behind him and learn the system? Because all Dak does right now is, here we go, pre-read anyway. And, he could pick that up if he is as cerebral as Robert Griffin says he is.
So,
that
Dale,
would be an ideal situation.
I love it. However, he would have to fall to 56. That's how far.
But we do have 2/3.
Yeah. I don't know.
2/3.
Crazier things have happened. I don't hate it. I'm not as a diehard.
Crazier things have happened. Michael Penix went number 8.
Dale, I'm as a diehard Cowboys fan as anyone, and I'll tell you this, just to be frank, I'm moved on from Dak. Okay, so I'm not opposed to it.
So have I.
All right.
Long time ago. We have so many glaring needs, and I'm so glad that that Thomas kid went before we got to pick 24 yesterday, because I was thinking, shoot, Jerry's going to pull the trigger and grab another freaking receiver.
Yeah. Luckily.
And,
Oh, I'm
Missed
sorry.
on the
Go ahead.
center yesterday. That kind of hurt.
Yeah, I think I like offensive line though, Dale. I really do. I like offensive line. You gotta build depth there.
Well, we need 3 of them.
Thanks for the call, Dale. We appreciate you, man. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663.
That's the interesting question, Cole. I know you love Spencer Rattler, but do you love him enough to put him on your team?
Sure, I do. And you know what? We've heard a lot of people, not just Dale, and by the way, thanks for the call, Dale. That was a fantastic call. Diesel, in the last, 2 weeks, you and I have had several people text in or on the stream say, how about Rattler to Dallas? It's been something that just keeps coming back up. I would love it because, again, I'm Dak'd out, right? I'm ready for Dak to move on. I just don't know that he falls that late. I would love for him to.
And he's from Phoenix. That gets him, relatively close to home.
Sure. Not too far.
Not too far. He spent some time in Oklahoma. It gets him back to an area of the country that he's familiar with and happy with. I mean, I think that would be a good situation for him.
You know what's interesting about that?
The only scary thing is Jerry won't come off of a quarterback that he really likes.
No, he won't. Well, what's interesting is, Diesel, Spencer, if you were to go round 2 or 3 to Dallas, let's say Dale's right and he goes to Dallas. Does that create, though, an issue with not only Dak, but with Trey Lance, who's already on your roster as a backup? If they didn't have Trey Lance, I would sit there and think, you know what, maybe they do go get a Rattler. However, I don't know why they got Trey Lance in August of last year, but they did. And
he's just a trade away. You can get rid of him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can cut him. You can release
sure.
him.
Yeah. I just don't know if they feel like he's going to be the guy one day, I hope not. There's a lot of ifs there, though.
Yeah.
Does Dallas, here's the glaring question, does Dallas even have a quarterback on their draft board they feel like they need to address? Because, as Dale said, they need to address linebacker. They need to address corner. Offensive line, he said it. Need 3 of them. Got 1 last night. Need 2 more. Need depth. We only have 1 really that's reliable right now. It's a great question. Need a receiver. Need a running back. I mean, Dallas is, even though they were a good team last year, they've done absolutely nothing in free agency, and that's killed them, man.
When we come back, Cole, let's take a look, since we haven't even done this yet. We've been so stacked up with so much to talk about. Let's take a look at our daily wires. What's the buzz going on out there in the sports world? We'll get to that. Then I'll ask you a big question. Since the NFL has dominated the ratings so much for so long, should other sports just give up trying to compete against it? That'll be next here on Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. I'm Diesel. This is The Fan Upstate. It's Wire to Wire. I'm Diesel. He's Cole Bryson. Let's get you caught up on the buzz. What's going on? See,
no buzz going on today.
Pay a lot
Diesel.
of money. Pay a lot of money for the best sound effects in the business. You don't get that stuff cheap.
Yeah.
Xavier Legette picked by the Carolina Panthers, number 32 last night. The Carolina Panthers moved up. They traded with the Buffalo Bills, moved from 33, which would have been the first pick today, to get 32, the last pick last night. They traded down from 141 to 200. What it does do for them, it allows them to have the fifth-year option on Xavier Legette down the road. So I think it was a smart business decision to do it. Is there really a difference between picking in the fifth round and the sixth round? Probably not. You may get lucky. You may find a massive diamond in the rough. But in all likelihood, it's going to be a guy who struggles to make the team that you're picking in the fifth or the sixth round.
You know what's interesting about Legette? I don't know how every Panthers fan feels, Diesel, but the ones that I've talked to today that have, via text, and the ones that have called me, I've talked to a couple. Because most of my friends are Panthers fans, they're kind of just like iffy.
I think it's because they felt like there were some better wide receivers out there that didn't go yet. Ladd McConkey, there's a handful of guys out there.
I do think that I hear you, but Legette and McConkey are just two totally different receivers, right? What are you looking for?
I think it's because they probably feel like the Panthers called their shot a long time ago, and it maybe just feels sort of anticlimactic.
Yeah, could be.
Like we heard for days that the Carolina Panthers and Dave Canales had already had the conversation with Xavier Legette. Said, hey, if you're there at 33, we're going to take you.
Sure. No, that's true.
Canales did say we promised that to a lot of guys. So who knows what the truth was. I mean, ultimately they did take Xavier Legette. Tonight, the Atlanta Braves will host the Cleveland Guardians, two really, really good baseball teams. The Braves 17-6. The Cleveland Guardians 18-7. First pitch at 7:20 tonight. Chris Sale will be on the mound for the Braves. This one makes you nervous.
It does, because Cleveland's a really good team and they're 18-7. I'll tell you this, it makes me nervous because of Chris Sale. Like I just don't know that I'm completely sold.
He was lights out in his last outing, was he not, though?
Yeah, he was good. I want to see consistency from Chris Sale. Logan Allen pitching for Cleveland tonight, pretty good pitcher. I think Cleveland's a really dangerous team right now, man. But the Braves are good enough; they should win. Hey, I'd like to. You know what, man? This would be an early good matchup to go to, and I may do a spur of the moment. I don't want to say for sure, Diesel, but I'll tell you what. Sunday at 1:30, I may spur the moment, hit 85 and fly down there.
Really?
Yeah, 1:30.
Okay. So you look. You look at Chris Sale in the season. He's 2-0.
Okay.
He has an ERA at home of 3.65.
Okay,
Got
terrible.
13 strikeouts at home. He in his last outing, he pitched 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 runs, 1 home run, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. Hey,
not bad.
In this era, where balls are flying out of the park, especially off of Atlanta Brave bats.
Yeah.
Giving up 3, it's pretty good. You don't really need Chris Sale to go out there and give up just 1 to go out and win ball games. Everybody can score. And hopefully, after what we saw against the Marlins on Wednesday night, Matt Olson's finally got the monkey off his back, and he can finally start hitting the ball again. He came up clutch there at the very end of the game. He did boot one into the camera well, but it happens.
It does.
I don't give him a hard time for that. He should have come up with that ball, yes, but going into the camera well, I mean, that camera well is 4 feet to either side. That's just a ground ball. That's just a ball that's gotten out away from him.
I hate to tell you, Diesel, but I might check out the rest of the show. NBA playoffs are on, so I might just check out, man.
It's 5-2. It just
started. I'm ready. I'd go wire to wire, start to finish, man.
Yeah,
I love these early games.
So in the month of April, though, Cole, Chris Sale has he has pitched 19.1 innings, given up 15 hits, 10 runs, 10 of them earned, 2 home runs, and 20 strikeouts. I think Chris Sale's pitching pretty well right now.
It's not bad. Not bad.
He's doing fine. I think the Braves will be fine. It's a home stand. Obviously, you want to take 2 out of 3. A sweep is probably out of the question this weekend for the Braves. But hey, good news is on Monday, Cole, we're going to have a new guest coming on the show.
Yes.
Jake Mastriani from Locked On Braves.
Can't wait.
Fantastic. And what a time to have him on then right after arguably the best series of the season for the Atlanta Braves. So, yeah, we're going to be talking to Jake of Locked On Braves. Hey, Denver took a 3-0 lead over LA last night. They won 112-105.
Series over.
LeBron James finally going to go home and cry.
Yep, he's done. He's done.
The 76ers beat the Knicks 125-114. New York leads that series 2-1.
That's a big win for Philly last night. I really thought New York was going to win. Again, the draft was on, so I wasn't watching. I was kind of following along. I was more surprised, though, with Orlando beating Cleveland.
What's this consternation with Joel Embiid and not making eye contact during the postgame interview? People are giving him a hard – they were talking about this on the tail end of Jim Rome, and maybe you know a little bit more about this than I do because all I know about it is what Jim Rome was saying, and he was saying, dude, get off his case. He went out there and scored like 50 points for you after you gave him a hard time for not making eye contact. Maybe this was after game 2.
Yeah. I don't know. I do know I got a notification yesterday about Joel Embiid.
You think he goes home and cuddles with his dog and watches Netflix when he loses games?
No, but listen to this. How weird is this? I saw this alert come on my phone yesterday, Diesel. Joel Embiid is suffering from Bell's palsy. So I don't know if that has anything to do with speech. Is that a speech?
It is. It's where it can be. It doesn't necessarily have to be. It's when a portion of your face essentially just goes completely numb.
Numb? Okay.
You can't feel it.
Gotcha.
I could be wrong about this, but Rob Brown, I believe, suffered temporarily. It's most of the time it's a temporary thing. And this was probably 2.5, 3 years ago, I think.
Really?
And yeah, it's like a nerve issue, I think. And it will cause parts of your face oftentimes to just go numb. And you can't use it.
He was diagnosed with that after he dropped 50 on New York.
He's doing fine. Okay. Put him out there in one of those Phantom of the Opera masks and let him go out there and drop 50 on you in style.
Kevin on the stream says, bring in Bauer now. I don't think it's time yet. We'll see, though.
Last night, Orlando defeated Cleveland 121-83. The Cavs lead the series 2-1. So Orlando kind of inching back into this one,
weird.
maybe.
That's weird. I don't know. I thought Cleveland would sweep Orlando 4-0. Orlando's not a playoff team. I don't know. They won last night as big as they did, almost 40-point win. I think that's probably their only win of the series, however, Diesel.
In the league last night, the National Hockey Variety, the Carolina Hurricanes beat the New York Islanders 3-2 to take a commanding 3-0 lead. Carolina Hurricanes, man, they feel like a team of destiny this year. They are really good.
I told Rob Brown, we were talking about it yesterday at Dave and Buster's. We were talking about the money line for the Canes, and I said, man, I'm worried that after the game 2, the way they were down and had to come back, I was worried they might have a little bit of a letdown game yesterday, but they didn't. They're really playing dominant right now. They're playing dominant hockey, and as you said, I hope you're right. I hope it is a team of destiny because they're playing really, really well right now. One win away from the series win.
Svechnikov had 2 goals in that game for the Carolina Hurricanes. That would be Andrei Svechnikov. He had 2 goals for the Hurricanes. That's all it took to beat the New York Islanders last night. And Chicago drafted Caleb Williams #1 overall. Cole, here is what that sounded like. If you weren't watching, if you were one of the few Americans not watching the draft, here's what that sounded like.
With the first pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams, quarterback, Southern California.
There he is, a Detroit cheer.
Cheers.
How about Roger Goodell last night, Diesel, getting Xavier Legette's name terribly wrong? Xavier Legette.
Come on, dude.
Come on.
Can you not ask?
Yeah, really.
In advance?
Really?
Has he not practiced a lot of these names?
No.
Roger.
No.
Roger. No, we were sitting at the corner of the bar at Dave and Buster's last night. Thank you to Ryan and the whole crew for having us out there. We had a blast, and we hope you guys all go check out what they've got going on out there. Those platters that they have.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm a sucker for anything with a pun in the name. The Crispy Businessman, I was all about that. But we were sitting at the bar, and Dan B came out with his wife, Just Jess, and they were watching, and Roger Goodell came out with Eminem. She goes, "Who is that?"
Oh, man.
I said, "That's Eminem." She goes,
Detroit.
"That's Eminem?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "I don't recognize him anymore. He's got the ball cap
That's
on.
funny.
He's got the dark dyed beard. People don't recognize
That had the dyed
Eminem
hair
anymore." Does he?
I don't know.
I would assume so, but I mean,
He had a hat
does
on,
the
though,
carpet
right?
match the drapes with Eminem? That's the question.
All right, coming up next, our reaction to first round draft results, our pick-by-pick reaction from last night, as well as David Tepper seeing the sign. What does that mean? He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
All right, guys. Very, very excited about today, about the outcome of today, being able to add Michael Penix Jr. When you can add a high caliber player like that with his intangibles, those tools, he's a winner. Very, very excited. You don't pass up that opportunity. And Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. We're very excited about Kirk, very excited about this team. And Michael Penix is, we're talking about the future. The draft is, you look at the future and you look at big picture, but we are very excited about that quarterback room. And again, Kirk is our quarterback, but adding Michael Penix is thinking about the future.
So if Michael Penix is thinking about the future, Kirk Cousins has a 4-year deal with the Atlanta Falcons, Diesel. And what's crazy about this is when we talk about the future, Michael Penix is how old now? 22? Is that what you said earlier?
He's 24.
Oh,
yeah.
Add 4 to that. That's 28 before he's starting.
He's going to be 29 when Kirk Cousins' deal runs out, and he can officially be the free and clear starter.
So that audio was from the owner and general manager. They were sitting together at the draft table being interviewed. I would love to have been a fly on the wall in that interview process as the bugaboo, the surprise, the one that no one saw coming, Diesel.
It's 23, excuse me.
23, still pretty old for a quarterback coming out of the draft. The one that no one saw coming last night with the 8th pick overall, the Atlanta Falcons selected quarterback Michael Penix Jr. I have no words. I am shocked. I'm
so old,
surprised.
Take the junior off of his name.
Yeah, they might certainly have to do that, Diesel. We know that we were watching the draft last night, and we know that there were a lot of good quarterbacks. We knew that Michael Penix was a quarterback that would get gone early. No one knew, however, that Michael Penix Jr. would go to Atlanta, and now I kind of feel bad for him. I kind of feel bad for the guy that has to sit behind Kirk Cousins praying for another Achilles pop.
Yeah, you better pray that Kirk has nothing in the tank. But then again, I mean, the Falcons better pray that he does because he's got $90 million fully guaranteed.
Yep.
$180 million on the contract.
You know the best situation for this to work out? Michael Penix this year learns behind Kirk Cousins. Next year, 2025, Kirk Cousins and Falcons, they have a pretty good draft again. They're a pretty good team. They win the South, go on a little playoff run. Kirk Cousins leads them there. Cousins, all of a sudden, first round, there it goes again, Achilles. Well, guess what? Michael Penix comes in, and he leads them to the Super Bowl. What do you do then? Do you go back to Kirk Cousins?
You go to Kirk and you say, Kirk, we love you, but we want to go ahead and retire.
Does that remind you of the situation that happened in Philadelphia a few years ago?
Does that remind you a little bit of the Green Bay Packers when they had Aaron Rodgers as the young up-and-coming guy and Brett
Drew
Favre
Bledsoe and Brady,
Yep.
Romo, Dak Prescott? It's happened before. It's happened before. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is Wire to Wire, the newest show on the afternoon airwaves. We appreciate you for tuning in. If it's your first time, welcome in. We want you to be a TOLO. That stands for Turn It On, Leave It On. You can text the show 71307. Start your text, though, with the word fan. That way we can see the text. Diesel, as you and I were at Dave & Buster's, we were watching the draft unfold. You and I both went home. Where in the draft did you start feeling like things could get hairy? Because we knew Caleb Williams could go 1, right? Mm-hmm. Jaden Daniels 2 to the Commanders. I love that. I think that for me, after the first 2, Caleb gone, Jaden gone, Bears, Commanders, that's where I thought, okay, I really don't know what's going to happen now.
Well, these teams all reach, right? Most of them are in the top 10 because they need a quarterback. And that's why we see this happen every year. The top 10 of the draft is so quarterback heavy, and all these teams feel like they have no other choice. They are twitchy. They are nervous. They will go get a quarterback. They will reach. And that's why you have teams like the Browns, right, who would reach year in and year out, go after the flavor of the month, and most of the time be wrong.
You know what the Browns didn't have? First-round pick last night.
That helps. You can't screw up in the first round if you don't have a first-round pick.
You know what else was crazy? I can't believe we hadn't talked about this. This blew my mind. Last night, Diesel, the Rams picked at 19. It was Sean McVay's first ever first-round pick in LA.
Oh, my God. That's right.
That's
they
crazy.
Did give away
Remember what they said about the picks?
Those first rounds.
They said F those picks. That's what they said.
They said we want vets, baby. Vets, AARP.
That was his first ever first-round pick.
The LAARP Rams for a while.
They were.
Still are.
I was going to say, kind of still are. Aaron Donald leaving does help a little bit.
I could see the Rams needing a quarterback. I don't know where they draft in the second round, but I could see them maybe taking Spencer Rattler, depending on if he's
wouldn't be
still
bad.
available.
I wouldn't hate it. I would not hate that at all to go learn and sit behind Stafford for, what, a year or two?
Yeah,
because
Stafford's
Stafford's
not going to be there too much longer.
No.
He's an old guy.
Yes, he's got to be on the way out. He's been in the league for a long, long time.
The LA Rams will have the 52nd pick overall.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a ways to go to get there. I mean, we were looking at, possible landing spots for Spencer Rattler, and he is the best quarterback still on the board. At 33, the Bills don't need one. The Patriots don't need one. Cardinals, no. Commanders, no. Chargers, no. Titans, maybe. Panthers, no. Commanders, no. Packers, no. Texans, no. Falcons, no. Raiders,
wait a minute.
maybe.
Falcons need a quarterback.
Saints, maybe. Colts, no. Giants, probably. So
I don't know.
So if you're the LA Rams, I mean, you got to get through
a lot.
You got to get through a lot of picks.
A lot
to get to number 52.
I don't hate it.
A lot of teams that may need quarterback.
So we know Williams went to the Bears. Jaden Daniels went to the Commanders. Drake May to the New England Patriots at 3. Diesel. I don't hate it. I just don't know that Gerard Mayo is an offensive-minded guy. Like, I still have a ton of question marks about this organization. I mean, they haven't been good. Like, they haven't even been competitive. Playoffs, nothing since Bill Belichick and Tom Brady divorced.
Yep.
Gerard Mayo, in my opinion, has one of the tougher jobs in football. How do you revitalize what used to be the dynasty?
Yeah, I mean, with Bob Kraft, the game is certainly passing him by. He's one of those guys that he wants to be as involved as he can. I think Bob Kraft is smart enough to know, like he wants to be involved, but he knows when to step back and let things happen. Unlike Jerry Jones, unlike David Tepper.
He's a good owner.
He's a good owner.
Yeah.
He is involved in the right ways. I mean, he does visit shady establishments and get rub and tugs, but that's neither here nor there. It's a stressful job,
Hey, look, Drake May says all the right things. He's seems like a good guy.
And he's a snazzy dresser. You and Rob were both bagging on him for his Mac Jones inspired, for that.
I didn't hate it. It was simple but classy.
I like the fit that Steve Smith had on last night.
Steve Smith's always going to be
red jacket that was cut really well. See, like that's called doing the basic things, doing the classic looks in a snazzy way.
Yeah.
Instead of, looking like an Imperial trooper like Caleb Williams did.
So I don't mind Drake May to New England. Here's where I do have an issue. Marvin Harrison Jr., who I said many times was the best player in my opinion, on the board, the best player who would have the best career in the NFL, the most upside, the lowest floor, the lowest ceiling. I thought Marvin Harrison, I still am. I still think he's going to be a really good NFL player, Diesel. However, what's going to have to change for him to have a successful career in Arizona? Because nothing I've seen out of Kyler Murray makes me think that he can be a quarterback of the future. He's a good quarterback. You know, what's interesting about Kyler is he was such a star coming out of high school in Texas. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought he'd translate. It did translate to college, but it didn't quite translate to the pros.
Well, he doesn't have it between the ears. I mean, and Jonathan Gannon's going to have his work cut out for him, and he's going to have a big decision going into the 2026 draft. I have to look up Kyler Murray's contract situation.
He was drafted in 19, Diesel. So he played 19, 20, 21, 22. This would be his 6th year in the league. Is that right?
Kyler Murray signed a 5-year, $230 million contract extension that runs through 2028. So I don't see unless the wheels just really fall off.
Man,
really fall off for Kyler Murray. I don't see them having any interest whatsoever. I mean, somebody will think I can fix him.
Yeah.
And somebody will try and they'll probably fail, but that's really the best hope there for Marvin Harrison Jr.
They're going to have somebody, Diesel, surround those guys, surround Kyler Murray with a really special running game and an innovative head coach with a really good offensive mind that can put Kyler in the best situations. Hopefully I'm wrong, but man, I hate that Marvin Harrison went to Arizona. I really do.
Yeah, you'd like to see him in a position where he can be successful. That's unfortunate to stick.
I would love to have Diesel seen him go next. The LA Chargers had the 5th pick. They went offensive line from Notre Dame, Joe Alt. Many had the highest graded offensive lineman on the board. I don't have a problem going offensive line for any team in the first round.
No. Everybody needs it. You need elite guys, especially if they're multiple and they can play in several different positions. I mean, you add that level of flexibility. You can play center, you can play guard, you can play tackle, protect the quarterback. I mean, if you've got that kind of guy, you have to go get him.
Texter says Patriots needed a quarterback. They drafted a 3rd-string quarterback with a 3rd pick. May has won 0 big games in college. Ooh, Texter not really high on Drake May there, Diesel. Is he wrong?
He has a lot of disdain for the Tar Heels, and I like that.
I was going to say, though, man, I hope Drake May has a good career. I really do. I'm not convinced.
I think too many people place too high of a premium on results in individual games.
Sure.
Like, does it matter if Drake May went and beat Clemson in a game? Not really. I mean, can he make the throws? Yes or no?
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Does he have the footwork? Does he have the technique? Does he have the touch? Does he have a rocket for an arm?
Mm-hmm.
Can he make the 10 to 15-yard throws accurately? That's what matters. It doesn't matter if he beat Florida State on the road at Doak Campbell. I mean, you want a guy that has that eye of the tiger in them that can go out and win big games, but it's not the end-all, be-all.
At 6, the New York Football Giants went Malik Neighbors. I love this. Out of LSU, wide receiver. Daniel Jones needs all the help he can get, right?
Yeah, a big fan of the Fan Upstate and a guy that you guys have heard on this station quite a bit, Carlos Ortiz, put up a video of that pick when it was made, and he lost it.
He liked it?
He was really into that pick.
Good.
Up, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Maybe he'll work out. LSU receivers, they pretty good.
Tend to do well.
They do. The Titans went offensive line to help the mayonnaise and coffee drinking quarterback, right? Your favorite, Will Levis. That's disgusting. And then the pick that everybody thought was the best pick in the NFL draft at number 8, the Atlanta Falcons took who? Roma Duse, Washington receiver. How about offensive line? How about Brock Bowers? No, Diesel. They took Michael Penix Jr.
What?
Why? Okay. The Bears, though, they do pair Rome Odunze, Washington receiver, with Caleb Williams. That's probably – I know Chicago. They stink. But don't you feel like of the draft, there's 2 solid picks?
Well, it's easy to win when you got 2 picks inside the top 10.
Yeah.
Right?
You would hope.
Yeah. You would hope, unless you're the – God, could you imagine if the Falcons had 2 picks inside the top 10? What they would have done? McCarthy and May. Call them the M&M twins.
Oh, man. So, J.J. McCarthy, speaking of him, Diesel, he went to the Minnesota Vikings. You said a lot of potential, you thought.
Yeah,
should have success.
I think that receiving room there is really good. And
JJ,
he's going to have a chance there to throw to some really good wide receivers in his rookie year.
JJ too. JJ, quarterback, the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson catching balls from JJ. McCarthy
says Deshaun Watson would have benefited if Robert Kraft had traded for him. See, Texter, I don't even have to read the second half of this text to know where this is headed.
We got it.
They could have gone to those type of establishments
Jeez,
together.
y'all are terrible.
Deshaun only wants it if it's on Instagram.
Yeah, y'all are terrible.
If he's not entering somebody's DMs, you don't want it.
To protect Aaron Rodgers, the Jets went OL, offensive line. You like that?
Smart, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to protect his Achilles, they need to put a metal brace around it.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think the Jets last year, Diesel, their defense was formidable. I mean, a good defense. They kept them in games. Problem was,
I think the Jets would have been pretty good last year if Aaron had stayed healthy.
they would have. Zach Wilson just could not, wasn't the right fit. I'm glad he's gone now. Bo Nix went to the Denver Broncos.
I'm going to start calling him Zach, you want fries with that Wilson, because that's what he's going to be doing here in a couple of years.
Speaking of Zach Wilson, he now is in a quarterback room with Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Payton has some interesting work to do, Diesel. I'm not really sure what you do here. I mean, not as much as what Atlanta did, but why do you bring in, I guess, maybe depth?
True quarterback competition.
Yeah.
I mean, you why do you trade for Zach Wilson if you don't particularly like Zach Wilson? But I think you gotta go quarterback competition here and really let these guys, battle it out for QB1 on the roster.
A few more that I do like. I like Brock Bowers to the Raiders. I like Byron Murphy, Texas defensive lineman of Seattle. Alabama linebacker Dallas Turner joins McCarthy in Minnesota. They also had 2 first-rounders. Bengals went offensive line. Needed that to protect Burrow, obviously. And then I tell you what, as I scroll down, I really liked it, 23 Diesel, Jacksonville going Brian Thomas, LSU receiver, to give Trevor a little help.
Weapons.
Yeah.
More weapons. I mean, Trevor, if you can't win now with what you've got in that receiving room and in your running back room, it's just not your sport, bro. Like this league may just be above you if you have this many pass catchers and you can't get them the ball.
Well, I think number one, they need to stay healthy. Christian Kirk got hurt last year, and they were a different team when he got hurt. I do think that if Thomas and Kirk and ETN all stay healthy, to your point, I think the Jaguars will be much improved. Heck, they started 9-3 last year, then plummeted after Kirk went down. So we'll see. Lions got Terrion Arnold, defensive back from Alabama. And then how about Xavier Worthy? What a night for him. You get drafted, where do you go? The Kansas City Chiefs.
That is hitting the lottery, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead and start fitting that man for a Super Bowl ring, because he's gonna need some help.
Dallas went Tyler Guyton, offensive lineman from Oklahoma, Diesel, and then 49ers. They also went receiver Ricky Pearsall from Florida. Xavier Legette goes to 32 to the Panthers. And how about something we hadn't talked about much today?
Cole, who are these teams? Do these teams in the NFL, do they want to get their ass kicked by Kansas City? I mean, like, why do you keep trading with Kansas City to let them move up? Stop helping the Chiefs get better.
Something that we haven't touched on a lot today, Diesel. Nate Wiggins goes to Baltimore. I thought a very good landing spot for Nate Wiggins.
Outside of the cold weather and the fact that you have to live in Baltimore, that's a pretty good situation.
No, I like it. I'm happy for him. I hope
that makes him an immediate Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, and Derrick Henry, Nate Wiggins, I mean, 2 really good additions, like you said. Yeah, they are. Little NASCAR next, Diesel, right?
Yes, sir. We're going to talk to Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer, covers NASCAR for the Observer. We'll get to his thoughts on David Tepper seeing the sign. We'll talk NASCAR. We'll even get a smidge of NHRA in right there at the very end. That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. Interest rates fall. This is Diesel from Wire to Wire with some advice from Allen Tate Realtors. You can't afford to wait.
Mortgage rates are predicted to drop this year, but home values in the Carolinas are still appreciating by 6% a year. Simply put, the longer you wait for rates to go down, the more home prices go up. It's a tricky thing to navigate, which is why if you're considering buying, selling, or investing in a new home, I think you should call Allen Tate Realtors. They keep track of these things and are set up to be nimble. When the conditions are just right, they're ready, and they'll have you ready too. You don't want to miss out on the exact right time to buy or sell, because it could very well mean the difference between paying too much for the house you're buying or getting less for the house you're selling. I like to DIY too, but there are just some things in life that I know are better left to the pros, and that's who Allen Tate are. Pros. Visit AllenTate.com.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
Staples can print anything you need to move your business forward, like banners, flyers, signs, and catalogs. Some even same day. And now at Staples, save $50 on your print purchase of $150 or more. Offer ends 6/1. Visit staples.com/print for details. Staples, your local print and marketing expert.
Grab 2 Bo's Bird Dogs for $5. Available for a limited time only at Bojangles. It's bow time.
It's bow time. When you combine the bold taste of a Bojangles Chicken Supreme with dill pickles, Carolina Gold barbecue sauce, and a toasted bun that's great on the go, you get Bo's Bird Dogs. In fact, you can grab 2 of them for $5. Available for a limited time only. It's bow time.
Your morning jolt of sports. It's the Rob Brown Show.
Darby Allin from All Elite Wrestling here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. I have a request for you, and you probably won't listen to me, but could you please make Sting stop? I think maybe you're a bad influence. I don't know. Can you please just ask him to back off a little bit?
Nope.
Dude, like the feeling you get when you do this stuff, you can't put into words.
It is Wire to Wire. He is Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel, and our next guest has not taken the Wayne's World approach. He has not been magically whisked away to Delaware. Hey, look, guys, we're in Delaware. Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer joins us on the show. Shane, I don't know how old you are, but every time I ask Cole, have you seen this movie? Even if it's a huge movie like Wayne's World, the answer is always, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. So it sounds like you've chosen, or were you assigned otherwise to stay in Charlotte to cover the draft?
No, I have not seen the movie Wayne's World. I am familiar with it, so I understand. I understand the joke we were going for there. I think I'm smart enough. I'm a smart enough young guy to get it.
There you go.
I'm not.
So Cole was talking to you in the break, and you said that you were in Charlotte, possibly doing something with the Carolina Panthers for the draft. I just want to know how much buzz is going around about this video of Dave Tepper stopping in there to the Dilworth Neighborhood Bar and Grill, taking a hat off of the owner, possibly his head, getting in his face. I mean, this guy's a joke, and I hope that you guys are ripping him every chance you get.
Oh, yeah. That continues to be big doings up here in Charlotte, especially with the latest. And it's just, I saw, I think it was Ryan McGee tweeted today, just a little while ago on X, that that's what goes on in Charlotte. Everybody's excited about their first round picks the day after Thursday night of the NFL draft. And here in Charlotte, we're going over a video of our owner.
You got to love it, man. You got to love it. Shane, before we get into this week's race, let's go back in time, 5 days ago to what was the disaster for a lot of people on that very last lap, including myself. What the heck Michael McDowell's thinking, having the audacity to screw up a lot of people's weekend.
That was as big as it gets, a big one to end Talladega last week. Michael McDowell, for a while looking like it was going to finally be the race, he takes a checkered flag, and nope, just Brad Keselowski trying to throw the block, and it turns McDowell around and just wrecks the whole field behind Tyler Reddick sprinting to the checkered flag. Just a crazy end to the race that gets. And I think what we also got to really highlight is that as big as that was and as many drivers as the big one took out after the white flag, with about 30 laps to go in the final stage, that was when Eric Jones wrecked. And basically what kind of happened there, John Hunter Nemechek got into Bubba Wallace, and Eric Jones got into the wall really hard. He was released from the infield care center, told reporters his back was sore, but then he had to go back to the care center and eventually transported to the local hospital in Birmingham. Got released from the hospital around 12:30 in the morning, and he is going to be out of this coming race this week. So Eric Jones, fortunately, he is all right, but he has a spinal fracture, and like I said, not racing this next week. And that was not even in the big one, let alone all the drivers who had their chances at a win last week or at a strong finish negated right at the very end. And Brad Keselowski, who was, kind of really played a big role starting that, got into second place. And then after that, some other drivers who had strong runs got rewarded with top 10 finishes.
He is Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer, joining us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. This weekend, Shane, we're going to see Jimmy Johnson getting back behind the wheel. He's got the most wins at Dover of any active driver. I say active in air quotes because, well, he's not racing full time. But it's interesting that, he's found so much success at Dover. He's coming back for this race. And, you juxtapose that to the news that we got earlier today that Matt Kenseth has ruled out a return even on a part-time basis. Is it just kind of a nostalgia tour for Jimmy Johnson to go out and run this race, or do you think he has a real shot to perform?
Thus far with the races in which Jimmy Johnson has run, it's kind of felt like that. It's kind of felt like it's been more of that nostalgia tour, and the idea of Jimmy Johnson being in the race, that he always drove the 48, and now he's driving an 84, and he's always in a Chevrolet, and now he's in a Toyota in this new era of the sport. And then by lap 40 or so, he's been running in the back, and then he's probably involved with a wreck. And then we're not talking about Jimmy Johnson for the rest of the race. So could that change at Dover, where he is an 11-time winner, the most, like you guys said, of any other driver? I think there's always a possibility. He's Jimmy Johnson. And so driving the number 84 this weekend at Dover, I think that you never know. And it's in, like I said, and that's what we were saying a lot at Daytona, and he did end up wrecking out early that time, like was alluding to, but he's always a threat, especially in track like Delaware.
Hey, Shane, there are only 3 full-time drivers who have found success at Dover, which is really crazy to think about. When you look at Truex, being the guy who has had had success there recently, do you feel like this is just as mixed of a bag as any track they're racing on right now?
Yeah, and I think that's something with Truex is that big thing to note, it's his home track. And a lot of times you talk about that with certain drivers. They perform well at their home track, or maybe they don't always perform well, but you're always hyping up the storylines if it's their home track, especially with Kyle Busch in Las Vegas. But Martin Truex Jr., a native of South Jersey, every time he goes to Dover, that is his home track. And like you said, Martin's a top driver there every time. 4 wins, the most of any active driver at Dover Motor Speedway. Just something a little bit different about racing at your home track, especially this one being another mile-long track, just similar to the 1.5 miles that a lot of the standard tracks at the Cup Series level.
Shane, I know that you have really kind of just begun your career covering NASCAR. You said it's kind of something that you've gotten into over the past 2 seasons or so, but I'd like to know, in your short time covering, what is your most prized NASCAR collectible? At this point, you've got to be gathering a few little things here or there. Maybe it's something that, is just representative of a moment that you had so far covering this, but is there anything really cool that's sitting on Shane Connuck's desk?
Most of what I honestly do always keep is as little as it is, but in addition to credentials and stuff like that, is even my tags in the media center, handouts, anything that they give out, I'm always keeping and kind of like a little bit old school looking back at. But in NASCAR, I haven't been able to, and I think if this thing differs in a little bit from other sports. It's not like, even you get somebody's jersey or you having a certain driver's paint schemes and just, a lot different. So I'm definitely waiting for that big, whether it's like obviously you do little things like a car or something like that to kind of have, but I don't have anything that particular other than trying to collect as many little things as I can to figure out what kinds of cool NASCAR items that someone who covers the sport a while would have laying around.
Well, Shane, before you ask, it's not for sale, but this is something that I picked up as a little kid. It was it's a cowboy hat painted up in Richard Petty's red and blue scheme, and it's autographed right in the forehead by Richard Petty. You can't have it. It's even got the fur and the fringe around it, like his hat always had. But you can't have it. So I just want to let you know that I've got that. Be jealous, but it's not for sale.
Oh, wow. That's a good one. That's a very good one. And then you see that cowboy hat at every NASCAR track this year. So a life-size version of it. And so you've got it sounds like the really specific desk version of the iconic cowboy hat.
Hey, Shane, do you think that with NASCAR announcing their Hall of Fame nominees Wednesday of this week, do you think it's time for Greg Biffle to get in, the only driver who's won the Truck Series in 2000 and then the Xfinity Series in 2002, I believe?
Yeah, I think it will be soon. I mean, as again, somebody a little newer to the sport, was the kind of thing that I had heard about him and seen, these different guys are potentially going to get in this year, but I do everything I've seen. I think that he is due to getting forever enshrined in Uptown Charlotte.
Shane, NASCAR released a graphic yesterday of playoff points following Talladega. William Byron has 15. Denny Hamlin has 12. Kyle Larson, 10. For those of us, and I'm including myself in this, who don't understand the NASCAR playoff point system, because it's changed from the era that I watched a lot of NASCAR. Can you fill us in on how that point system works and how having 15 is better than having 12?
Absolutely. And guys, it's a little bit different also in that it feels like when a driver wins, they get locked into the playoffs. And that is almost true, but the reality is that it almost assuredly locks you in once you win a race. Because of the point system now, which is accumulated from stage points, top 10 after each stage, the top 10 after each race, and for the entirety of the season, that ends up the top 16 at the very end are the drivers who qualify for the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. So at this point, being at the top of that with William Byron and Denny Hamlin having won multiple races and gaining all those points, they are officially 100% locked in. But despite the fact that you've seen different winners this year, we've had a lot of talk about the playoffs. William Byron and Denny Hamlin are the only drivers who are actually currently locked in with the way this is. Most of the other drivers who have won will almost 99.9% chance end up getting in the playoffs as well. But it goes to show you how many little things go into it. And then we're going to end up noticing when you have certain drivers like even Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman, it feels like even Michael McDowell, it feels like they have been winning poles, running well, but haven't won a race like a lot of drivers. But the reality is that there are a lot of little things it's going to continue to come down to. But at the end of the day, if any of those drivers end up winning a race at any point, they will almost assuredly be in the playoffs. So overall, when the playoffs they've done a lot of different things with the playoffs as it keeps expanding. And I talked about this a few weeks ago, but I do think that it is kind of a similar concept to the way that the playoffs in other major sports leagues are evolving. With the way that sports in general keep expanding, they keep having to add more rounds and more teams to have more postseason competition. And so you're seeing, for example, in Major League Baseball now that you're having the playoffs start to get to the point that they have so much parity that last year the Arizona Diamondbacks, who barely made it into the postseason, end up winning the National League pennant. And similarly, I feel like in NASCAR, the last few years, you've seen drivers like Austin Cindric and Michael McDowell and Austin Dillon end up in victory lane at the Daytona 500. And now that we've been 20 or so years of the playoff championship 4, all that stuff evolving, you're starting to see a driver like William Byron, who's really emerging as a superstar, win the Daytona 500. You're seeing different drivers really compete for the championship, and potentially then the playoffs, as it continues to have more rounds, it's going to continue to be more, I wouldn't say it's not legitimate before, but before it kind of feels like, okay, it's a crapshoot and some guys end up with the championship 4. And I think it's really becoming more and more, yeah, it's NASCAR, it's going to be random, it's going to be, a lot's going to happen and wild, but I think that we're really, this playoff system is starting to allow us to see the best racing. It's starting to allow these really competitive drivers to have to really execute little things right, and the best ones are really starting to emerge.
You can follow him on Twitter at Shane_Connuck. Shane, I want to ask, do you think the aggression will be dialed up as we keep getting closer and closer to the midway point? Obviously, we'll switch networks in a few months from now and try to take this thing home. But like I think back to this past Sunday with Michael McDowell, that a lot of NASCAR fans say that NASCAR or that Michael McDowell, that was his chance to win, right? Last week was his track. It was his chance to win. And you have a guy like that talking about the playoffs who is not in the playoffs now because of what happened on the very last lap in Talladega. Do you think that's good for the sport when we talk about the playoffs as we build up? You have guys like McDowell trying to be a little bit more aggressive down the stretch.
No, you're right. And that's a really good point, especially a guy like McDowell that it feels like might not necessarily get that chance again and having to race that hard. And then you notice other drivers sometimes just kind of acknowledge that they're not going to win and just be shooting for a 10th place finish at absolute best sometimes, who are strong drivers and are winning other races. And so I do think that that's another one of those things that we're going to continue to see it evolve with, when those lesser drivers kind of really have to, like you said, race that hard. And then again, the hard racing is something that is definitely a problem, especially as NASCAR drivers come up. And in the truck series last year, which is one of the lower series of NASCAR, there was in the championship just a ton of among the 4 championship 4 drivers, just a ton of hard racing, to the point that infamously in the NASCAR world that Carson Hocevar, who's now in the Cup Series, ended up wrecking Corey Heim, who was the points leader and felt like he was on his way to a championship. And then there were a bunch of wrecks that race, and it became a whole talking point about people wrecking each other. But the point just is that as these drivers are coming up, they're kind of is that old school, really wanting to race really hard mentality. And then obviously there's the new NASCAR mentality of really emphasizing safety and being competitive and sportsmanlike and all of that. Not that there wasn't a lot of that before, but the point just is, and I've heard Kyle Busch, older driver in today's world, talk about that a lot of these up and coming drivers want to race so hard and feel like they have to race so hard, and are starting to learn about how to really, kind of control themselves and realize, the bigger picture a lot of times during races.
Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer covers NASCAR, covers other types of motorsports as well. Shane, I saw that you just wrote an article about NHRA. I've only been to one NHRA race, but what blows me away, Shane, is when you get down into the pits and you see that guy. There's always one who stands there and breathes in that nitromethane and just absolutely loves it. It's one of the most noxious smells you'll ever smell, but there's always that dude who stands there, breathes it in, and loves it. How do you feel about it? Can you stand it, or like you, because you've been covering it a little bit, what's your feeling on that stuff?
I have, and let me tell you, the experience of a drag race, and if you haven't been out to one yet, I'd highly recommend it. 4 Wide Nationals going on here in Concord today and tomorrow. It is something different. When you're standing up there in the pits, like you said, the smells, the sounds, if you think it's loud at a NASCAR track, which it is, when you hear these cars that they go, they're just shooting up, going over 200 miles an hour in just 4 seconds, just how loud it is, these engines, and like you said, the smells around there, it is just a different experience.
And to watch these mechanics completely break an engine down, rebuild it, put it back together, break it in, and then go run it one time and do it all over again, Shane, that's one of those things that just, it boggles my mind how these mechanics were able to do this so fast.
It does. It does.
Hey, Shane, great stuff, man. As always, we sure do appreciate you taking time out of your busy weekend to hop on with us and talk a little NASCAR. Our audience is loving what you're doing on our program, and we can't wait to talk to you again next week.
I'm really happy to hear that, and thank you guys a lot for the opportunity, as always, and excited to talk with you guys again as we head next week into Kansas.
Putting a bow on this week's Wire to Wire. As Diesel pointed out during the break, we have now completed
show 25.
How about that?
How about it?
Well,
that's 125 hours together.
Not yet. Still 7 more minutes for us to screw it up.
We could always say the F word and get thrown off the air.
Get fired. Speaking of fired, David Tepper's got to be the guy that everyone in their company wants fired. You ever work, like I've had a lot of different jobs. I've worked for big companies, small companies. The biggest company I ever worked for, like you always have that one person in the building that everybody wants to get fired. Everybody's on the same page. They're like, oh, yeah, let's get that guy or that girl fired. That's David Tepper. I feel like the coach doesn't like him. You can't tell me Dave Canales is a big fan of Dave Tepper.
The only reason he's a fan of him is because he keeps signing the checks.
Sure, that helps. You think the ownership, the executives, you think they're a fan of him?
No, they're
Surely
terrified
not.
of him. They hate the guy.
Coaching staff, players, fans, who likes him? David Tepper, does she?
Maybe.
He signs the checks. David Tepper's the guy or the girl that everybody wishes they could fire in their business and their organization. The sign read, as you heard Shane Connuck talk about it in the last segment, Diesel. Just simple. There was nothing wrong with it. There was no defaming, no slander, nothing legal, nothing illegal. It just asked for David Tepper to let the GM make the pick, right? Is that what it read?
How involved he was with Bryce Young the last time around.
So evidently that's not called for, as David Tepper made his way into the restaurant, took the guy's hat off, and made a show, right? David Tepper has to make a show. He's got
his sleeves rolled up. He's got his goon beside him. Those of you who are old enough to remember, it's like the movie Back to School, except David Tepper's not as funny as Rodney Dangerfield.
Who was the guy beside him?
I have no idea.
Bodyguard?
Probably.
Come on. Like, imagine being, let's think about this. Imagine being David Tepper. You got a driver, right? I'm sure he has a driver. So they hop in the SUV, Diesel. They're leaving, let's say, I don't know, they're leaving the front office. They're leaving the headquarters of the Panthers. They're heading to some draft party to watch the draft, right? No, David Tepper obviously not doing that because they had a draft pick. They're heading to the war room. On the way there, David Tepper says, hey, man, can you run by this restaurant up here in Uptown and hang a left at the red light? And we want to park on the sidewalk, and I want to run in here, and I need you to come in with me. I need to take care of some business real quick. Like, how's that conversation go?
So apparently the restaurant is owned by a man named Matt Wolforth. It's his restaurant.
Okay.
He was not there when it happened. He apparently wrote the sign.
Good for him.
Yeah. He says, quote, unfortunately, I wasn't there.
I wish he would have been, because I bet he wouldn't have allowed David Tepper to take that man's hat off.
This is lame. He says, quote, I would have sat down and had a beer with him. Don't capitulate.
That's weak.
Don't capitulate.
What do you mean you have sat down with him?
The question is, what should they put on the sign now?
That we can say on air? I'd say, thanks for stopping by, Dave.
Yeah, I think you have to. Take the high road.
Sure.
Make him feel small.
You little beep. It's just makes me so mad. It makes me so mad that the owner, the Diesel.
I'd say next time, thanks for stopping by. Next time, buy something.
Or bring your wife. The owner of a franchise, think about this for a second. You own a NFL franchise. And on your agenda, before you head to the war room to pick a player in the NFL draft, your agenda consists of leaving there, going to the war room, wherever you're leaving from, maybe a meeting, important meeting with the city about having more concerts. And then you go to the war room, but on the way there, like you're the owner of the Panthers.
It says here, this is an article that came out 2 hours ago on QCnews.com. Apparently, the host was wearing an Eagles hat. Yep. The host was wearing an Eagles hat, and the owner of the Panthers came in and took his hat off of him. Dude, why do you not have a box of Panthers gear in your car? Why did you not go out and get him something?
Concert tickets in his car, dude. They have a lot of concerts at this Bank of America Stadium.
Before me, we had no concerts.
Now we do. Look at what I've done. You know what? I don't know that there's an owner. We've had owners in the NFL that have done illegal things, right? We know that. Dan Snyder, POS, other. We don't know what Jerry Richards. There's been POS owners, right? Yeah. There's been owners that haven't been good. But David Tepper is just like the most embarrassing of them all. Not talking about doing illegal things or stealing money or anything like that, but just the flat out most embarrassing little man syndrome owner that happens to be a billionaire that knows jack squat about football.
You also have to know, Dave, that you can't win this exchange, right?
No,
you cannot win this. So it says here that apparently the situation was playful and fun, which I don't believe. I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, but the perception's never going.
The perception is bad, right?
Yes.
You've got to drive on, man. The only thing you can do is have your little butt boy that's with you filming to prove that, hey, Dave's taking this in stride. He's laughing about it.
If he took it in stride, he'd have bought everybody in the restaurant. Took care of their tab.
What is that, like $1,000 maybe? If
maybe
you could buy everybody's tab in the place,
yes,
for less than $1,000,
and $1,000 wouldn't, what's that to him?
He's got that in between his couch cushions.
It's ridiculous, man. I hate it. I hate the whole situation. You said it. Perception looks bad.
You can't win, Dave. Don't go in there unless you can prove that you were in a good mood and that you laughed with the joke. Otherwise, drive on, man.
Dave needs somebody in his ear that has common sense.
He's a no man.
He needs somebody that's like, hey, Dave, maybe this isn't the best look.
Congratulations on 25, my friend. Here's the 25 more.
Tolo.
That's right. We'll see you on Monday here on the Fan Upstate.